Chapter 26. A secret base somewhere in New York. Alexander Pierce was in a slightly empty and old conference room. He looked at the projected picture in front of him. The seemingly weak girl tore off the back door of the van with amazing force. The girl just glanced at it. All the agents in the compartment died. It silenced him. A bald man in a suit and glasses took a cautious look at Pierce, and then said softly, "Sir, we deleted the surveillance records later. There are not many people around, and our people have already dealt with it. It can be detected from such a distance. It seems to be much more mysterious than I imagined." Pierce took off his glasses. But judging from his expression, he was not surprised by this matter. "Sir, what should we do next?" "Remove the surveillance. One trial is enough. We can't be overexposed." Pierce said without hesitation. He didn't want to learn the lesson a second time. Fury is very sensitive to the situation now, especially these two people. We are still in hibernation. It would be bad for Fury to notice. "Yes, sir." The bald man with glasses nodded, and then he continued. Fury activated the quick response special forces, and they found the monster. The product that mutated due to the failure of the experiment. Yes, he seems to want to contact the other party and absorb that monster to become an Avenger. The Thunder General in the military has been chasing down that beast, and he won't let it go with Fury. Pierce thought for a moment, then paused and continued, "If it goes well, don't make any moves. If necessary, I will initiate a relationship. Let Ross go." "You want to help Fury?" The bald man with glasses was a little puzzled. After leaving office, Pierce still maintains a relationship with S.H.I.E.L.D, and even has a name, but he never intervenes in S.H.I.E.L.D in major matters, just to prevent that suspicious guy Fury from being vigilant. "Why do you want to do this time?" Pierce shook his head. "The situation has changed now. We used to manipulate S.H.I.E.L.D to complete our plan to rule the world, but since those guys appeared, the world pattern has not remained the same. Fury needs to stand in front of the potential crisis, and we have to stay dormant. Observe. Advertisement if you can, see if you can contact those people for a partnership. You want to cooperate with those lunatics." The bald man with glasses was surprised. According to the data, those people are extremely powerful, but no one knows whether these lunatics will focus on the earth at that time, or they will dig their own graves at that time. Pierce snorted coldly. "If you have enough strength, you can rule the world. If you don't have enough strength, even if you rule the world, wouldn't you be overthrown by those guys who don't know the details? What I value is the secret of how they become stronger. Nowadays, various institutions are studying how to become stronger. Over the ages, there are still fewer mutants who died on the test bench. What are those abilities?" Thinking of the picture described by Nick Fury, those people move at almost the speed of sound or even supersonic speed, fight, and can change the surface of the earth with one blow, and the collision of momentum can produce a vision that will destroy the world. And teleportation and so on. This is where Pierce really changed his mind and plans. If you can master these abilities, isn't the world at your fingertips? And when there is really an army composed of a group of extraordinary fighters, what is the Earth? The universe is so big, why must it be limited to the Earth? Danger, let Fury go. When the time is right, we will pick the fruit." Pierce smiled coldly. This ambitious sneer made the man with bald head and glasses shudder. He seemed to see the future world full of corpses and ruins, but these were just premonitions. One sound. Hydra hail. Time passed slowly, and a week passed. In a deserted land in the state of Mexico, a black shadow fell from the sky. With a boom, a deep pit with a diameter of nearly 100 meters was smashed out of the desert land. And this movement also made people in the towns near the state of Mexico discover that from the beginning people thought it was a meteorite, but it turned out that there was actually a hammer in the deep pit. Advertisement surprised residents tried to pick up the hammer, but found that the hammer seemed to be rooted in the earth and could not be pulled out at all. So people began to use various methods. The Mexican hunk who thought he was strong enough used a car to pull it behind him, saw it with a chainsaw, and even wanted to hollow out the land under the hammer, but there was no way at all. Allows the hammer to leave the ground. Ever since, this hammer, which could not be pulled up at all, became famous in cities around the entire state of Mexico. Many tourists have heard the news and come here to challenge. There are also smart residents who simply set up barbecues nearby to make some money. It was not until a group of people arrived that the residents were dispersed. Just at the edge of the hammer pit, several black SUVs stopped, and a group of people in black suits and sunglasses came down. The slightly bald man at the head stood by the edge of the pit, looking at the standing hammer in the deep pit. He picked up the communicator and said something to the other end. "Sir, I found it." And Nick Fury's voice came from over there. "Strictly monitor, seal off the surrounding area, investigate whether there are suspicious people, observe first if you find it, don't touch it casually, if it is something over there, someone will definitely be sent here." "Yes, sir." "Phil Coulson, test that hammer and see if you can find anything." "Clear." The communication hung up, and Phil Coulson just waved his hand without looking back. The agents behind him immediately started to act. However, in just half a day, with the transportation of materials, a simple test base was immediately built nearby. With the hammer as the center, a special plastic sheet was pulled up to cover it, and an electric wire net was pulled up around it. Experimental researchers in white coats test the hammer with various instruments. Phil Coulson, arms folded, stood on the edge of a passage, staring at a raised hammer in the ground ahead. "Could it be you? Ask for a monthly ticket for flowers. Thank you for your support. The information is almost the same. Tomorrow, the 5 shifts will resume normally, and we will update as much as possible to make up for it." Advertisement. Chapter 27. Mexican State. At the moment it was already night, and the sky was howling with strong winds. In this Gobi desert, it was rare to see heavy rain. I don't know if it was a sign of something. Right here at S.H.I.E.L.Ds temporary test base. Phil Coulson stood in the passage, listening to the noise of people coming and going and the sound of heavy rain splashing on the plastic sheeting. He stared at the hammer standing in the pit ahead. For some reason, he always had a bad feeling. He sensed that something bad might happen tonight. Thinking of this, he put one hand on the earphone and said, "Barton, do you notice anything wrong?" From the other end of the earphone, came a calm and deep male voice. "Nothing unusual, Phil Coulson, this is the 5th time you've asked." Phil Coulson didn't care about Barton's subtext at all. He thought thoughtfully, "When this thing appeared, I always felt that someone was spying here, Barton, maybe that thing should appear today. We have already covered surveillance around us, but we haven't found anything." "I know, but the sense of urgency is growing, Barton." The other end paused, knowing that a veteran agent like Phil Coulson would not be aimless. "You must know that people like them who are always on the verge of life and death have long cultivated incredible intuition. Many times, irrational intuition will save their lives. Barton has also appeared a number of times. So he trusted Phil Coulson. "Phil Coulson, don't be the group of monsters that the director said, we are not enough to kill them." Phil Coulson said helplessly, "If it is really those people, we will be in big trouble. Fortunately, the director has already contacted Xavier's school. If there is any movement on our side, they will also support it. Their Blackbird fighters are very fast, but it doesn't take long." Phil Coulson is really tired. When he was still a rookie in the 1990s, he and Fury experienced an alien incident, and learned that this universe is not just a civilized race on the Earth. After joining S.H.I.E.L.D, I learned many secrets that ordinary people don't even know. Advertisement. The already complicated Earth has resulted in a more mysterious three-dimensional universe world of order, chaos, and chaos. According to the information obtained, it is only the tip of the iceberg of those 3 worlds. Its level is the highest, and the Earth may be just an ant file size in the eyes of the other party. Those people may not be interested in the Earth, but who knows? Alas, Phil Coulson sighed. "It's just that the more I don't think about it, the more I want to come." At this time, Hawkeye's dignified voice came from my ear. "Phil Coulson, 50 kilometers to the southwest, an unknown sign of life was detected." Phil Coulson was taken aback. He quickly walked to the information control room, where all the nearby computer clusters were monitored. "What was detected?" Phil Coulson asked directly as soon as he came in, looking at the big screen template above while asking. "The infrared radar scan on the left shows a red dot constantly flashing to the southwest, and it is approaching at an alarming speed." At this time, the agents who manipulated the radio continued to report information. "Sir, our people detected a person who suddenly appeared 50 kilometers away, and approached at a speed of nearly 200 meters per second. It is estimated that they will arrive at the base in less than 5 minutes. Didn't the people around us notice it?" Phil Coulson frowned. "Sir, this person seems to have appeared suddenly. The monitoring and manpower we deployed only saw a person suddenly appear and then disappear. The destination is our place. Phil Coulson's heart sank. Sure enough, it was aimed at them, or the hammer. Get ready for a first-level battle. Phil Coulson took out the S.H.I.E.L.D channel communicator to send the command, and immediately after finishing the command, he took out his mobile phone and sent a message to one of the numbers. After that, he immediately turned around and walked towards the sentry tower southwest of the base. Advertisement: the sentry tower is very tall, specially built for S.H.I.E.L.D's agent Hawkeye Barton. Hawkeye's vision is far beyond that of ordinary people. Even on a stormy night, he can clearly see tiny creatures more than 10 kilometers away. Barton, what did you see? A very scary guy. He is wearing armor and moves very fast. I seem to see the red triangle mark on his helmet. On the sentry tower, the heavy rain from the sky kept falling, and he was wearing a black S.H.I.E.L.D Kevlar uniform, which made him blend into the night. He held a special composite bow, set up an arrow, and locked his sharp eyes on the approaching people. What makes Barton dignified is that every time he locks, the opponent changes direction at an astonishing speed, and the forward speed is not lost. He knew that the opponent must have perceived him and other S.H.I.E.L.D snipers. Definitely a pretty scary master. Below, following Phil Coulson's first-level combat readiness, the S.H.I.E.L.D agents showed amazing qualities. They were fully armed and maintained a crossfire formation. Armed helicopters and fighter planes were flying across the sky. Don't let him come here. Phil Coulson looked at the fast-moving red dot on the tablet in his hand, and decisively issued an attack command: swarm of hummingbirds, launch an attack in the minefield. A steady voice came from the earphone immediately. Yes, sir. As his order was issued, roaring roars came to his ears. I saw the fighter planes in the sky advancing rapidly, and the missiles and armor-piercing shells attacked the front like a torrential rain. At the same time, the person approaching at high speed suddenly raised his head. The helmet mirror frame flashes red. Wang! The streamlined and cold armor flashed red, energy bloomed, and the metal boots stomped hard on the muddy ground. Boom! The force of the explosion shook the ground, and a not-so-shallow crater burst out. Water splashed everywhere, and his speed increased sharply again, pulling out terrifying afterimages. The next moment, a torrential rain of bullets and missiles bombed in all directions. Boom! 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 Ask for a monthly ticket for flowers, thank you for your support, and also thank you for the 588 rewards from the boss of Out of Nothing, and give them one by one every 5 shifts. Advertisement. Chapter 28. At the same time, at the other end, the metal gate on the ground of the Xavier Juvenile Mutant Academy base in New York opened, and a Blackbird fighter jet jetted out flames, took off vertically, and flew into the sky. With a roar, the Blackbird fighter immediately disappeared into the long night sky. Some sparse students in the school corridor noticed this scene and whispered, "Are the teachers going to perform tasks again? I really don't know what tasks the teachers are performing. I'm very curious. I really want to join the X-Men, Sheen and Mr. Ororo fighting side by side. I heard that the tasks performed by the X-Men are very dangerous." Haha, only danger is exciting. However, most of the people who said these words were boys and they were all in their teens. When they were in adolescence, the little girls didn't have much idea about joining the X-Men. Compared with joining the X-Men to perform tasks, I am more inclined to go to school with my good friends. Living in the peaceful and quiet academy, they are not willing to go out. On the contrary, the young boys and girls yearn for the mysterious realm, like excitement and danger. Among these people, one of the boys with pimples looked excitedly at his companions. "Man, believe me, the teachers must be performing very important and dangerous tasks." "John, why do you say that? The rush to perform the task so late must be related to what happened more than a week ago." When the teachers came back, their faces were heavy, and several meetings were held. "We asked the teachers and professors, and seriously warned us not to ask any more. Isn't it? Who knows, I hope the teachers return safely." The handsome boy named Poppy shrugged. In the office on the 3rd floor of the cylindrical building not far away, Professor Charles was sitting in a wheelchair, looking at the fighter jets disappearing in the sky in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows, with a hint of worry on his old face. "I hope these children will be safe when they encounter those monsters." Boom! Boom! Boom. In New Mexico, terrorist explosions kept coming in the night, clusters of flames were shining, and the terrible explosion shockwave raged in all directions, even repelling and evaporating the heavy rain that fell. Advertisement in the dense firelight, a ray of red light that was visible to the naked eye could be seen moving at an astonishing speed. As fast as a cheetah, the missiles launched by S.H.I.E.L.D were completely unable to hit accurately. You must know that the speed of the missile is not as slow as it is seen in movies and TV. When ordinary people see the launched missile, when they react, the missile has already been launched and exploded in front of them. And the shockwave produced by the explosion is enough to shatter a person's internal organs. But the man didn't seem to feel anything at all. And under the baptism of overwhelming bullets, he can also accurately fly the bullets with both high-frequency particle knives and the high-speed movement. The red light and sparks all over the sky look so gorgeous under the dark night sky, as if constantly mobile firework blooms. This seemingly gorgeous scene, but in the eyes of Hawkeye and Phil Coulson, is that Death God is approaching. Barton's voice sounded in Phil Coulson's ear, very urgently, "Phil Coulson, evacuate quickly, this mission failed, this person's strength is far beyond our imagination." After finishing speaking, Barton stood on the sentry tower, his sharp eyes passed by, and he caught the slight flaw of the other party, the explosion impact of the missile, and the storm of bullets, which slowed down the man's figure a little. The arrows on the bowstring of the compound bow have been fired. Whoosh! The arrow pierced through the night, and with Barton's confident prediction, it shot precisely at the head of the comer. Under the restrictions of the missile shockwave and the storm of bullets, the mysterious comer was more or less affected. Barton believed that even if he failed to hit with one arrow, he could still make the opponent suffer a lot. Unfortunately, Barton's idea fell through. The mysterious man's combat awareness was extremely keen, and he immediately noticed the bow and arrow fired by Barton, and his right hand seemed to have precisely grasped the arrow aimed at his head. Especially when seeing the flashing red light of the spiral metal arrow, there is no slightest hesitation and it flicks forward and upward. The terrifying power caused the arrow to blow away countless incoming bullets, and then exploded with a loud sound. Boom! The flames swept across, and the flames of the explosion covered the line of sight, and the impact airwave also disturbed the storm of bullets that hit the sky. Take this gap! The mysterious man's helmet and glasses flashed red, and his whole body immediately disappeared into a plume of black smoke. This also made the attacking units of S.H.I.E.L.D panic immediately. Advertisement target disappeared. The infrared detector did not detect the target's life signs. Find the target quickly. I found it, here I am, ah, damn it. In the end, there was a shrill scream from the channel, whether it was the flight members of the Sky Combat Unit sequence or the agents on the ground who cooperated in the battle, they all subconsciously looked in the direction of the source of the channel. I saw an armed helicopter swaying wildly at a height of more than 100 meters in the sky. The rain was pouring down, and sight was obstructed. Except for Hawkeye, everyone else just saw a blurred picture. Boom! I saw a figure covered in blood smashing through the door of the cabin and falling towards the ground. The sharp red lights blinked and cut the armed helicopter. The fighter plane was instantly dismembered and turned into metal parts. But it's not over yet. In the sky full of parts, the mysterious man twisted his body in mid-air, kicked his legs vigorously, and the fast ones turned into several afterimages, smashing large metal parts such as the cabin door one after another. Kicked in all directions. Boom! 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 The others had no time to react, and a dozen fighter planes in the sky were hit, bursting into flames and even exploding. And the mysterious man doesn't care about this at all. In the flames that almost illuminated the sky, his figure swooped and slid towards the S.H.I.E.L.D temporary base. Clatter! 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 The agents in the base fired one after another, and the mysterious man stretched out his hands while gliding, using high-frequency double blades to keep blocking, and finally his figure smashed through the plastic sheet on the ceiling in the center of the base, and fell into the center of the pit. Standing next to the hammer and looking down at the hammer. Ask for a monthly ticket for flowers, thank you guys for your support, thank you so much. Advertisement. Chapter 29. The extremely cold figure just stood on the edge of the pit. The heavy rain was pouring, and the deep pit began to slowly accumulate water. Rain slid off his armored shell. In the ear, there was the sound of Secret Baba's footsteps, and hundreds of fully armed agents surrounded him with weapons, and the lights of the armed helicopter in the sky shone on him. Under heavy siege, the mysterious man didn't panic at all, he still stood still and looked down at the hammer. The red glow of the frame under the helmet is shining. His chest heaved slightly as if breathing. He didn't move, and the rest of the agents didn't dare to shoot directly. For a while, the two sides confronted each other like this. A chilling atmosphere permeated the audience. I don't know if it's an illusion, but these experienced agents suddenly realized that although there was only one person on the other side and they were surrounded by them, it was them who seemed to be surrounded. Sweat hung on his forehead and couldn't help dripping down. At this time, Phil Coulson pushed through the crowd, walked up to a kind of agent, and looked at the mysterious man in front of him. The armor is full of technological style, with sharp edges and corners. It is not as bulky as Tony's MK armor. On the contrary, it looks very streamlined. There are no redundant weapons, except for the small 48-style shurikens hanging on the back to form a large shuriken. Only two sharp red blades on the wrist. Looking around, there is no superfluous space in every part. Whether in the eyes of ordinary people or agents such as Phil Coulson, this is a complete killing machine. Hey buddy, can we communicate? Knowing that the other party was not kind, Phil Coulson was still ready to communicate. Even if the opponent caused S.H.I.E.L.D. to cause a lot of losses and casualties. But Phil Coulson felt that the person in front of him must be from someone over there. Advertisement: he must obtain more information at all costs. This is also the task entrusted to him by Director Fury. However, the other party had no intention of communicating with him at all. After glancing at the hammer for a while, he seemed to have received some information. He stretched out his hand, and under the vigilant eyes of Phil Coulson and others, he spoke to his right wrist. The sound is extremely metallic due to the helmet. Found it, detected the position energy particle fluctuation, and the energy data has been transmitted to the center. After a pause, it seemed that he had received some order, and he had a new movement. As if there was no one else around, he bent down and stretched out his hand to grab the handle of the hammer. This action caused all the agents' fingers on the trigger to move slightly, but Phil Coulson immediately stretched out his hand to stop it. He stared at the man in front of him, ready to observe what happened next. He wondered if this man from over there would be able to grab the mysterious hammer. However, the man grasped the handle of the hammer slightly, and a ferocious aura burst out from him. The terrifying aura permeated the air, surrounded by wisps of red and blood-colored particle energy, which obviously let everyone know that the man has already exploded with maximum power. Boom! Following the sudden force of this person, under the action of huge amounts of force, the earth vibrated fiercely, and the stagnant water even splashed a lot of water. It's a pity that it doesn't seem to have the slightest effect on the powerful force. The hammer wasn't pulled up at all. And the mysterious man didn't seem to be disappointed. He let go of the hammer handle, the red energy particles all over the sky slowly dissipated, and continued to reply to the other side, "There is a magic imprint, and I can't pick it up. The coordinate point has been marked." Clear. After the exchange, he stood up, raised his right hand slightly to reveal the red high-frequency particle blade in his hand, raindrops splashed on the blade, and tilted his head slightly to scan around. Finally, the eyes were on Phil Coulson. "Here, owned by the company, get out immediately, otherwise. Advertisement kill." The moment the last kill word fell, a terrifying and turbulent blood-colored murderous aura swept all directions, even repelling the heavy rain dripping from the sky. Even though everyone present is an agent who has experienced many battles, under this chilling killing intent, fear rises uncontrollably in his heart. Looking at the flashing red mirror frame of the other party's helmet, it seemed that a sharp blade was cutting his throat, and the inverted claws were tearing his heart. Under this last warning, Phil Coulson's eyes flickered, and in the end there was no nonsense and hesitation, and he said something immediately. "Evacuate." "Yes, sir." In just a few minutes, all the agents in the entire temporary base immediately evacuated and disappeared without a trace. "Take away all the instruments and weapons that you brought along." Scary efficiency. Like a robot, after drinking the S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, the mysterious man raised his head slightly, and with a sound of wing, his body instantly turned into black light and shadow, and he disappeared without a trace. Just tens of kilometers away from the base, a convoy of 20 or 30 carts slowly stopped on the road. The sides of one of the large cargo wagons rose slowly to form a rain shield, and Phil Coulson and Barton, armed with a compound bow, stepped down from it. The heavy rain is getting heavier, accompanied by howling winds, making the night even more noisy. The terrain is much higher than the previous base, so Phil Coulson took out a high-precision telescope to observe the abandoned base, but didn't see any figure, so he frowned. After putting down the binoculars, he turned to look at Barton. What do you think? A merciless killing machine, talking about the company, came to carry out the task. The identity of the other party is not simple. At least our people have nothing to do with him, unless the Tomahawk missile, or a more powerful missile. Phil Coulson took the words, then shook his head. The problem is that we don't know where he comes from. If he is from there, he may use some method to leave the dimension at any time. The director's worries have come true. If this person is from there, the cost of their crossing dimensions may not be as great as we thought. Thank you very much for the 1,000 point VIP reward from its MOXI Acridine, thank you very much. Advertisement. Chapter 30. I have never seen the technology of the opponent's battle armor, and I think the strength that the opponent has shown before can not only be achieved by a pair of battle armor, he must also be quite powerful. Barton dissected calmly, recalling the scene of the opponent's battle in his mind. The speed, strength, and consciousness are all far better than the average ability I have seen. If such a number one person can be cultivated on the earth, then there are only those multinational chaebol. The strength of the multinational consortium must not be underestimated. It may not be obvious at times, but in fact its influence has already penetrated into all aspects, and it is also out of reach of many ordinary people. Over the years Barton has worked for S.H.I.E.L.D. He's seen too many of them. Some financial groups can't even provoke S.H.I.E.L.D. easily. As for some organizations, it's not that Barton underestimates them. In his opinion, SHIELD is already the top organization in the world, with top-notch technology and brokers, but it may not be possible to cultivate such a terrifying monster. Maybe. Phil Coulson rubbed between his brows. The X-Men are already on their way, and now we have no other choice but to wait. In addition, the monitoring range has been expanded to a range of 500 kilometers. I will apply for the use of satellites. This time, I must catch the other party's trace. Phil Coulson snapped. If it is really someone from that side, S.H.I.E.L.D. will suffer such a boring loss. If it is a certain chaebol, let S.H.I.E.L.D. find out, and the other party must pay the price. Time passed bit by bit. The torrential rain still did not stop. While Phil Coulson was waiting, under the cover of night, a Blackbird fighter plane slowly fell from the sky and landed on the open ground not far from Phil Coulson's temporary base. Blackbird fighters with vertical takeoff and landing technology have no runway restrictions at all, as long as the road is flat. The fighter plane landed, and as the hatch opened, the X-Men came out under umbrellas led by Cyclops Scott. Phil Coulson and Hawkeye waited a long time. When the two parties met, Scott shook hands with Phil Coulson, Hawkeye, Barton and said straightforwardly, "How is the situation? Follow me." Phil Coulson led the X-Men to the top of a large vehicle, which served as a sentry tower due to the height advantage of the terrain. Advertisement: the top floor of the cart is spacious enough to accommodate a group of people. On the roof of the car, there is a rain shield blocking it, and with the sound of countless rainwater splashing, Phil Coulson pointed to the enlarged pattern on the transparent glass in front of him. The picture is exactly the processed base. There is only one person on the other side, but the single-body combat power is very strong, which caused us heavy losses, and 15 fighter planes were destroyed. Next to it is the recorded battle scene. Several members of the X-Men looked at the screen. Under the storm of bombing bullets spreading and covering, the red glow was in danger, destroying the sky-armed forces in the shuttle. His face became serious. A sneer flashed across Logan's tough face. It must be those bastards. This kind of fighting style, he has lived for so many years. He has only seen it on those dogs more than a week ago. Definitely is talking about people in the chaotic camp. Logan is a person who loves and hates clearly. Sunspot and the Yellow Ape treat them pretty well. Where's that guy now? Scott asked, spitting out his mouth on Logan, but the others didn't care. We drove us away, but the person disappeared. Our life detectors and surveillance didn't find anyone. He must have shielded himself in some way. Phil Coulson shrugged. Scott didn't speak, but turned his head to look at Sheen, who nodded, closed his eyes, pressed a finger on his temple, and in an instant, invisible spiritual power swept across. From an angle that other people could not see, Sheen could use her spiritual power to see that somewhere in the front base, there was a special existence with extremely strong vitality. Cold, dark, boundless blood. Jean suddenly opened her eyes, facing everyone's gaze. Her expression was serious. He is there, I can feel his extraordinary, this kind of vitality does not come from the earth. Sure enough, it's those bastards. Logan snorted coldly. This person comes from a so-called unknown company. He should not belong to the same organization as the Akatsuki organization. His purpose is very clear, that is the hammer. Phil Coulson said. At this time, the hammer was originally one of S.H.I.E.L.D's secrets, but now, under strong external pressure, S.H.I.E.L.D doesn't care about the so-called secrecy. Advertisement keeping a temporary ally secret and creating a gap is tantamount to courting death. Fury will not do stupid things for a hammer of unknown origin. Phil Coulson, who had already been authorized, spoke out the information without changing his face. The X-Men didn't think too much, but pondered. Storm Ororo crossed his arms and said thoughtfully, this thing comes from their world. This thing must not be simple. Maybe. Phil Coulson nodded first and then shook his head. But I'm more inclined to come from another place, listen. He snapped his fingers. A slightly metallic recording came from my ear. Found it, detected the position energy particle fluctuation, and the energy data has been transmitted to the center. It has a magic imprint and cannot be picked up. The coordinate point has been marked. In conjunction with the scene of the man in armor trying to pick up the hammer, this changed the original guess of the X-Men. There are two possibilities, one is from another world, but it was detected by their so-called company and sent him here. Another possibility comes from a world in the three-dimensional world. There is a magic mark in the hammer, it seems to be related to magic. Scott analyzed. Phil Coulson nodded, it's the same as our previous analysis. But the bigger problem is. He marked the coordinate points. Scott said heavily, this means that more people will come. This is not good news. I want a monthly ticket for flowers. Thank you for your support. I would like to thank the big guys of Friends Out of Nothing for their rewards. Thank you very much. Advertisement. Chapter 31. Devil May Cry Office. Lyon's legs are on the work, waiting happily for the girl Saber to feed her dessert. Chocolate cake is one of the desserts that girls learn to make. It is also the favorite dessert of girls. For more than a week, apart from studying and going out to hang out with Lyon, the girl is learning to cook and other cooking skills. It can also be regarded as one of the hobbies cultivated by foodie girls. And Lyon definitely became a test subject, but Lyon completely enjoyed it. The girl's learning ability is very strong. Under the guidance of more than a week, the girl has learned a lot of cooking techniques, both Eastern and Western. While enjoying the feeding, I answered the phone call from Nick Fury. Mr. Lyon. If it's an employment mission, then I'm sorry, I'm on break this month. Lyon didn't show the director's face at all to Fury's familiar deep voice, and directly and self-willedly expressed that he would not do business. It is impossible to work part-time. He is alone in the office, eating and eating with a gentle girl who is as beautiful as a flower and like a princess. Isn't he uncomfortable going out for a walk? Definitely, he just said that, after all, he knew the purpose of Fury's call. What happened 2,800 kilometers away was concocted by him alone. Sure enough, just as he thought, Fury didn't talk about the employment, but directly stated his intentions. Something happened in Mexico State. Well, if you want to tell a story, forget it. I suspect someone from over there is coming. Hearing that Lyon was faintly impatient and about to hang up the phone, Fury spoke up quickly. Lyon raised his eyebrows here, for that hammer. Mr. Lyon knows. Advertisement probably clear. That. Just when Fury was about to spend money to buy news as before, Lyon spoke first. The history of the hammer is not simple, but the people you are entangled with are just a bunch of low-level guys. I have no interest in wasting my saliva, that's it gone. After finishing speaking, he unceremoniously hung up the phone. Fury was left thinking in another place. At this time, Tony's gleeful voice came from his ear, "Ha, you got rejected. That guy really has a bad personality." Fury turned his head and saw Tony in pajamas coming out of the luxury suite. "Did you hear that? I'm getting more and more curious about Lyon, what happened to him in the past few years, and there will be such a change." Tony picked up the thick-bottomed glass from the side table, poured a glass of whiskey with ice cubes and took a sip. He, who has reached an alliance with Fury, is very clear about what happened in Mexico State. Although the combat power of the mysterious man was not as good as those freaks of the Akatsuki organization and the Yellow Ape, it was still an extraordinary level of combat power. At least Tony thought that if he didn't take advantage of the armored sky at a distance, he might suffer if he got close. It is conceivable how terrifying a company that can cultivate a killing machine of this level is. Looking at the follow-up, there should be support of the same level or even a stronger level. Even if mass production cannot be achieved, the technology should be mature enough. Such a terrible company, in Lyon's mouth, is just a group of low-level people. It can be seen that Lyon's own level can only show this kind of disdain. But think of Lyon, who was hunted down after being provoked by the Demon Queen, and earned the title of Demon Hunter, and returned to Earth safe and sound. It is enough to prove that this guy is also a big shot. It's not that Tony didn't think about hiring Lyon to do things, but this guy completely spit out that he can do whatever he wants. Everything depends on his mood, and Tony and Fury guessed that Lyon could clearly detect the abnormalities in many areas of the Earth, but he didn't take a single shot. The high probability is that he is afraid of being noticed by the Demon Queen after using his power. Advertisement. Therefore, I have been living peacefully on the Earth for the past few years. In any case, Lyon's presence is in their favor. But the establishment of the Avengers needs to be accelerated as soon as possible. Thinking of this, Tony drank the wine in his glass in one gulp. Let's go, let's meet this Dr. Bruce Banner who can transform at any time. I hope he won't let me down. As for the state of Mexico, we can only pray, but judging from Lyon's tone, the situation should not deteriorate to that point. Even if it is corrupt, there is nothing to do. On the Mexican side, the heavy rain is getting heavier, even reaching the level of heavy rain, which is not uncommon for a region like the state of Mexico. Waiting, in this situation is tantamount to a painful thing. The agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. also became a little restless in this tense atmosphere, and only Phil Coulson and a group of people remained stable. Didn't have to wait long. Less than 10 minutes after the arrival of the X-Men, it should have come, and it has come. As soon as I saw the sky, a bright beam of light full of red particles broke through the night, and fell directly into the base of the pit that day, with huge amounts of shockwave sweeping in all directions, impacting the heavy rain and all the plastic sheeting and steel frames that were built. It's all over the place. And in the beam of red particle light, several figures emerged from it. There are men and women, and everyone wears armor of different colors, but judging from the standard, they should belong to the same organization as the first mysterious comer. Everyone is full of gorgeous temperament like science fiction, cold and ruthless. The moment she appeared, the woman in the dark blue armor, carrying a huge crossbow bolt with a sense of technology on her back, and with long, silver-colored hair, tilted her head slightly and looked in the direction of Phil Coulson. The faint eyes under the transparent mask exude a sharp color. Enemy. Ask for a monthly ticket for flowers. Thank you guys for your support, thank you so much. Advertisement. Chapter 32. The faint sharp gaze, projected on the enlarged screen, made Phil Coulson and the others frown. The appearance of these people confirmed their previous thoughts. These are all people from over there. But the next thing Phil Coulson and the others noticed was the appearance of another person. In the Tiankang, several warriors wearing battle armor guarded the four directions, and the first mysterious person also appeared in black smoke. The few people met did not communicate, but remained silent. Everyone looked in the direction of the Tiankang hammer. I saw a figure quietly appearing in front of the raised mud pillar hammer. I don't know when. The moment she appeared, the heavy rain falling from the sky was affected by an invisible force and unexpectedly stopped like that. The raindrops all over the sky stop. What a power this is! And the moment they saw this woman, other people present lowered their heads one after another, showing their high status. I saw a woman with a slender figure, wearing black shorts, white fur over her shoulders, a black leather belt tied around her left shoulder, and a leather belt tied around her waist. It has a unique temperament that is light and elegant, and moves cleanly. Boss! Everyone shouted in unison, even the mysterious man who was as cold as a killing machine. Not bad, you are indeed the fighters of the company's Lyon Project anti-espionage team. I am optimistic about you. The woman's voice was full of charm, which contradicted her sassy temperament, but she had a strangely incompatible charm. After finishing speaking, he tilted his head and glanced at Phil Coulson's base, then blinked his left eye at the camera in a mischievous manner, maximizing his charm. Seeing a woman like this, the hearts of Phil Coulson and other group of people sank even more. At this time, Chin's face turned pale, with sweat on his forehead, and he said in a concentrated voice, I can't feel her existence, she is like a collection of darkness, devouring everything. She's weird. Advertisement. Chin finally expressed her views on the woman with difficulty. What a mess. Logan snarled petulantly. Originally mutant has a bad A, and now there are these mysterious and powerful forces, and it is difficult for the Earth to protect itself, especially for people like Logan. He can't wait to rush directly to fight with those gangs. The National People's Congress has a fight. The big deal is death. I analyze here every day, because I have scruples about this and that, so I can't do it, and I can't feel aggrieved. The others could only sigh helplessly. Weakness is the original sin, and so is mutant. Look, that woman has moved. At this moment, Storm pointed to the big screen and said, attracting everyone's attention. Looking up, I saw the woman stretched out her luxuriant hand and bent over to brush the hammer. A dark purple viscous stream flowed like an undercurrent. The hammer that had been stationary began to vibrate faintly. Wisps of lightning came from the hammer. Bloom out of the hammer. On the smooth square hammer body, a lotus-like pattern looms. Seeing this, the woman who was called the boss couldn't help but curled up her mouth, her pink lips slightly parted, and she said with interest, very powerful magic power, similar to ours, but different. It seems that the origin of this hammer is really extraordinary, and it should come from a more powerful god. If the old man Rise saw it, he would be very interested. The woman talks to herself. The soldiers of Project Yuan remained silent, but the blue eyes of the woman with the crossbow on her back flickered. Boss, what should we do now? It's a pity. I don't want to provoke the people behind this thing. The woman said with a bit of regret, but this universe is very interesting, and there are many powerful gods. Before I heard, Xiao's gang made a lot of noise here. It seems that they have found a new target. Let's go, let's meet people from the new world. The woman glanced at Phil Coulson's direction, and said softly, the guest is coming, I hope the owner here can prepare a cup of hot tea. Really, this place is really muddy. Advertisement. There was a slight complaint in the tone. However, in fact, she knew that everything that happened here could be known by others. But she doesn't mind at all. This kind of confidence made Phil Coulson and his group look even more serious. Get ready, what should come will still come. Phil Coulson said something to Barton, who didn't talk nonsense, turned around and left immediately. This is not the occasion for him to play. Then Phil Coulson and the X-Men looked at each other, watching the woman on the big screen wave her hand casually, and a dark purple magic circle appeared under her feet, and everyone disappeared from the screen. And just when Phil Coulson and others were about to leave the base car, a cold and stern breath came out suddenly, causing everyone to stop suddenly. Logan instinctively and subconsciously pulled out the steel claw from the phalanx. He suddenly turned his head and looked. In the originally empty carriage, there were a few more people who did not know when. The fighters of Project Yuan, full of technological sense and coldness, stood in the four corners of the carriage and watched them silently. And the woman called the boss was sitting on a metal platform not far away, with her legs crossed, and one jade hand supporting the platform, showing her better figure at a glance. The fingers of the other hand are wrapped around the white silver hair, playing with it, with an elegant and charming demeanor. Her big eyes scanned Phil Coulson and the others, and her eyes finally settled on Chin, ignoring the people in front of her. She said with great interest, I thought I was going to return home without a feather, but I didn't expect that there would be additional rewards. Little sister, would you like to go to see a wider world with my sister? Sister is willing to train you to become the best assistant. The words were obviously aimed at Chin. As Logan, who had an affair, and her boyfriend Cyclops Scott saw this dangerous and mysterious woman interested in Chin, they immediately stood in front of Chin, full of vigilance. Who are you and what do you want to do? Scott said in a deep voice, with one hand still on his temple, ready to fire rays at any time. Looking for a monthly ticket for flowers, thank you for the 588 reward from the boss of Don't Be Brazen to learn from Emperor Lu, thank you so much. Advertisement. Chapter 33. I have many names, but for me now, you can call me Bayokui. My little brother keeps the woman he loves behind him. He looks so handsome. The woman named Bayokui put a finger on her pink lips, and winked playfully at Scott and Wolverine Logan. Full of charm. Logan only felt that it was weird. He, a man who had experienced World War II, was called a little brother by a centenarian, especially for a young and beautiful woman. Logan shook off these strange thoughts, tensed his muscles, stared at Bayokui and said in a low voice, "No matter who you are, don't play the piano, otherwise, I will take out your heart with my own hands." As fierce as a beast. Those sharp steel claws and sharp eyes are enough to prove that he is not lying. Chin, who was blocked behind, was also moved. Bayokui seemed to appreciate this scene, but he just reminded, "I think you'd better not try to attack me, otherwise, they won't let you go, they are the most satisfying killing weapons in the company." The fingers entwined with white silver hair pointed. Everyone looked away, and saw that tall figure holding a high-frequency red sharp blade appeared behind Storm Ololo at some point, and one of the sharp blades was quietly hanging on Ololo's neck, and then those who didn't realize it at all. Another woman in blue armor in a windbreaker held a high-tech metal crossbow and pointed it at Logan's head. The blue lines on the body of the crossbow flashed with particles, and the lethality was astonishing. The other two didn't move, they just looked at them indifferently. The deterrence of invisible made Phil Coulson and his group dare not move at all. "Little wolf dog, be obedient." Bayokui curled up her pink lips, and said charmingly, "Ma'am, I don't know what you want to do. It's not just to come to our place for tea." Phil Coulson sensed that the situation was at a disadvantage, so he spoke immediately. Bayokui seemed to have seen what Phil Coulson was thinking, looked over with a pretty face that was half a smile, stretched his waist, and said lazily, "I like the way you fight, it reminds me of those heroes in the past, but it's still too weak, so give up those small thoughts, offending people you can't afford will only bring disaster to your world. It's the original owner of the hammer that can make me look differently, but I browsed through your memories, and there is no clue, so your value is not high." Advertisement. The slightly charming voice combined with the sound of heavy rain splashing outside is like jade beads falling into a plate. However, everyone could only feel the coldness in their ears. What kind of ruthlessness, reality, and cruelty is that? Every word and deed of the other party blatantly shows a concept of linking the weak to the strong and value. Such a concept is very dangerous. Everyone's hearts sank again and again, and they felt that the atmosphere of killing was getting stronger and stronger. The battle is coming. Logan and a group of people tensed up, their eyes wandering, especially Logan. He knew that the Source Project fighters who threatened Storm had to be dealt with first. But just when everyone thought that the war was about to break out, unexpectedly, Bayokui invited Chin, Scott, and Logan. "You seem very interesting. Would you like to join us? I need people like you." This surprised everyone. Logan and Scott looked at each other, and the latter said mercilessly, "People like you need partners." "Partner?" Bayokui laughed dumbly, "You seem a little naive. The meaning of partners has always been equal strength, what do you think of their strength?" Raising his chin lightly to signal the fighters of the Source Project, he said something that horrified everyone. Every one of them was born from an experiment. The meaning of birth is to serve. Once something goes wrong, the end is to be destroyed. This is their existence. Value and meaning. So, like them, we have to become tools that rely on you. Scott sneered, "Become a puppet and let you manipulate it, so what's the point of living like this? So this is the sorrow of the weak." Bayokui's slender white jade fingers slid across his smooth face, with a look of self-pity, "The weak have no right to choose. The only difference between you is that your value may be more valuable than theirs high." Lots of nonsense. Logan could no longer hold back his violent temper. Advertisement. With a ferocious roar, he turned around suddenly and the steel claws tore through the air and directly stabbed at the Source Plan assassin who was holding Storm Ororo hostage. The steel claws were extremely sharp, and the latter sensed that he waved his hand suddenly, and the red blade mercilessly wiped away Storm's neck. After all this last night, he immediately retreated without giving a chance. But it was this one that made the X-Men grit their teeth. Puff. Storm's eyes widened, he clutched his neck that was constantly spraying blood, and made a ho-ho sound in his throat, before finally falling to his knees powerlessly. It never occurred to her that she would die here. Originally, before she set out for the mission, she still made an agreement with those lovely students to do an outdoor class, but is it still over? Her pupils reflected the angry and disbelieving eyes of her companions, and she wanted to say something, but in the end she fell on the ground and lost her voice. Ororo. No Storm. Seeing the dead partners, whether it was Logan, Scott, or Chin, they were shocked at first, and then a kind of pain and anger erupted violently. Especially Scott, immediately turned around and roared angrily at the beast that killed Storm, "I'll kill you, damn BD." The purple quartz glasses were released at full power, and a shining and hot red ray shot out from the glasses, pointing directly at the beast. Boom! The red ray pierced through a wisp of black smoke projection, smashed through the shell of the carriage, and pierced the pitch-black rain sky. An endless fight to the death is unfolding here. But Bayokui, who was in charge of everything, sat safely on the table, watching this scene indifferently. Ask for a monthly ticket for flowers. Believe me, brothers. If you stay up all night, you have to wait until 5 o'clock. Really, I'm not lying. Yesterday was an accident. I was dragged by the family leader to watch a wave of Ant-Man. Advertisement. Chapter 34. Far away at Mutant College in New York. Sitting in a wheelchair, looking at the distant night through the window, Professor X suddenly felt a surge of pain in his heart, and his old face suddenly changed. His eyes widened in disbelief. Ororo, is that you? The professor couldn't believe that the students who had been with him for more than 10 years had fallen like this. For an old man like him, it was tantamount to cutting flesh. Tears flowed down from the corners of his eyes unconsciously. For the great cause of mutant, he knew that this day would come sooner or later, but he didn't expect it to come so early. Memories with storm, each other's frown and smile came like a tide. The professor, who had already given up drinking, was drunk at this moment. At this moment, he hoped that this was really a dream. Boom! The red ray piercing the sky didn't last long, an S.H.I.E.L.D space vehicle was blown up. Pieces of metal shells and parts were blown away by a terrifying force, accompanied by loud and clear screams that resounded through the sky. Ororo! The terrifying huge impact swept in all directions, knocking everyone in the car flying. One by one silhouettes smashed into the muddy ground in the distance, and some smashed into the vehicle not far away, smashing a dent in its metal shell. And several figures were like cheetahs, full of flexibility, rolled a few times in the air, and finally landed safely on the ground, standing in 4 corners. With the high spotlights set up not far away, it was impressively clear that it was a member of the UN Plan Anti-Espionage Organization. Scott, Phil Coulson, Beast, and several members of S.H.I.E.L.D were thrown into the mud and became extremely embarrassed in the pouring rain, but everyone didn't care, but immediately got up and looked forward. It was seen that the entire compartment of the S.H.I.E.L.D base vehicle in front of it, including the driver's seat, was wiped out by inexplicable violent force and blown away. Advertisement: only one chassis and tires remain. On the flat floor of the car, Jean hugged the dead storm and cried in disbelief, while the two were surrounded by inexplicable red energy, and the heavy rain pouring from the sky was also frozen under this energy. The earth trembled faintly. A wordless terror is rising. Jean Scott got up and looked at the piano held up by storm in front of him, as well as the vision around him. His eyes under the glasses flashed in disbelief. After getting along for so many years, he had never seen Jean burst out with such terrifying power. Jean's outburst of anger almost made him feel like his body was about to be torn apart. Could it be? Scott seemed to remember something, and a trace of worry flashed in his eyes. At the moment, not far away, S.H.I.E.L.D agents were fully armed and surrounded. Phil Coulson got up and immediately picked up the communicator and shouted, "Everyone retreats 5 kilometers immediately, prepare for long-range attack equipment, and prepare for interference by snipers." Phil Coulson pulled up the S.H.I.E.L.D agent beside him to see if he could stay away from this area. As an ordinary person, he couldn't directly participate in a battle of this level. Even if he couldn't escape, he was ready to sacrifice. If nothing could be done, the missile silo at the military base in Mexico State was ready. Cover bombing, along with him, buried in this place. Not far away, about 1 meter above the ground, Bayokui was floating, and under the strong wind, the fur tail wrapped around his shoulders rattled. Looking down at the crying and suffering woman on the base vehicle, a smile appeared on her pink lips. "Of course there is another power hidden in your body, this kind of power is really intoxicating. Damn BD." Just as Bayokui was mobilizing the strength in front of Jean, Logan's hissed and exhausted roar came from behind, and the sturdy and burly figure jumped up from the sunken carriage, attacking the sheep with a hungry tiger. The posture leaped towards Bayokui across a distance of 100 meters. The latter didn't turn his head back, and his pale jade hands were slightly turned backwards. Wang! I saw the ferocious Logan's body instantly stop in the air less than 10 meters away. Advertisement: it was as if there were countless magic chains wrapped around him, preventing him from moving. Logan's resolute face was full of anger, and he frantically struggled to kill the woman who killed Ororo. However, the gap in strength was too great, and Logan's strength was useless. Bayokui gently waved his hand. Logan, who was floating in the air, was manipulated by Piao Xiang to come over. In front of Bayokui, she said to Logan, who wanted to take out her heart, "I didn't intend to kill her, after all, you all have good value, don't you? Didn't you kill her because of your recklessness? Your anger shouldn't be on me at all." The pink lips were slightly parted, but the pleasant and charming voice made Logan stop struggling immediately. The anger on his face stagnated, and when he recalled the previous scene, Logan's eyes immediately became guilty and painful. Yet, all because of his recklessness. Recklessness is the biggest flaw in his character, as Professor Chin, Scott, and Storm have all said. But he never took it seriously. This time, when his recklessness caused the death of his companion, guilt and pain immediately filled his heart. As if countless ants were gnawing at the heart, Logan wished he could die instead of Storm. Bayokui likes Logan's expression very much, as if she made a toy that she loves with her own hands. She is obsessed with this feeling, guilt, pain, and fear. Her figure moved forward slightly, her head was pressed against Logan's ear, and she whispered softly, "Yes, it was because of you that she died, but I believe she didn't blame you until the moment she died. I saw the nostalgia for the world and you in her eyes at the last moment of her death. What a pity and reluctance that is." The whisper was like the voice of a devil, constantly eating away at Logan's broken and painful soul. Logan's eyes were blood red, and he roared in pain and exhausted. "Ah, damn BD, kill me, you kind of kill me." Logan didn't want to be tortured like this any longer. As if he lost his mind, he growled and begged the devil-like woman in front of him to kill him. Unfortunately, Bayokui didn't torture him enough. "I want you to see with your own eyes, what kind of emotions will burst out when your companion, the woman you love, is killed. Ask for a monthly ticket for flowers. Thank you guys for your support, thank you so much." Advertisement. Chapter 35. Devil May Cry Office. Lyon and Saber were sitting on the sofa eating noodles bite by bite, watching the food show on TV. The girl looked very seriously. While Lyon seemed to be watching seriously, in fact, a picture of Mexico appeared in his mind. He can communicate with the perspective of the character created by himself, and the spiritual power can be linked to ability. Looking at Wolverine Logan, who was about to be spoiled, Lyon smirked, thinking that this guy must really be spoiled. The trend of the situation followed his script, but the woman's character was really bad enough. As for Storm's death, Lyon had no idea at all. "I can only say that I am not familiar with it. Moreover, it may not really die. In addition, I have to say that as the mastermind behind the scenes, you can still watch the scene as if you were there. In addition, the gold coins transformed by emotions such as anger and fear are soaring crazily, which is really delicious. Kill me, UFG, kill me. Tisk tisk, you'd be a really nice toy and collectible." Bayokui ignored Logan, whose mind was almost collapsed, and shook Logan slightly. Logan was lying on the muddy ground, and the land rolled as if life had been born, trapping Logan to death. The latter could not break through the thick soil no matter how hard they struggled. His eyes swept over. Not far away was a blue-haired beast staring at her angrily. Bayokui glanced at her slightly disgusted. "I don't even have the qualifications to be a gladiator for those idiot nobles to enjoy. Kill him." Bayokui said something indifferently. Not far away, the Source Project female warrior holding a red dagger flickered under the red mask, and the vigorous figure like a female leopard suddenly disappeared out of thin air. Neck. Advertisement. The sharp dagger that flashed cold light stuck to the skin, making Beast's hair stand on end, and a crisis of death emerged spontaneously. Just when Beast was about to fight to the death, the female warrior waved her right hand lightly. Laugh. The sharp dagger slashed across, and the blood sprayed from Beast's neck in the form of a splash. However, unlike Storm, Beast lived up to his name, and his body was as strong as Beast. When he cut his trachea, he did not die immediately, but died. A final struggle was made before. He suddenly reached out and grabbed the arm that was trying to retract the dagger, then his arm muscles tensed, and he swung it forward with all his strength, smashing the latter from behind to the ground in front. It's a pity that each fighter has his own powerful ability to become a Source Project fighter. The same was true for this one. Under Beast's unbelievable gaze, the female warrior rolled in midair, adjusted her figure and landed on the ground, facing Beast face to face. The woman waved her dagger coldly, and cut off the arm that was holding her. The palm of the severed hand hit the ground, and the woman twisted her waist indifferently and exerted force, her long legs fiercely kicking beast on the neck. Boom! Under the action of strong force, the latter's cervical spine was lifted and broken, and the click sound of breaking could be clearly heard. The latter died standing up with his body and head tilted in a strange posture, with blood continuously flowing from his uniform. Boom! In the distance, a belated gunshot rang out, and several bullets pierced through the night. The woman's figure only moved sideways slightly, while the bullets shot into the ground not far away, splashing mud and water. The woman tilted her head and glanced at the direction of the sniper. She didn't make any extra moves. To her, she said that people who are not a threat are not qualified for her to kill. But then her eyes changed, and her figure suddenly disappeared. The moment she disappeared, the red light shot over and shattered a small hill that stood hundreds of meters away. Scott gritted his teeth, and seeing the woman resurfaced on top of a large car 100 meters away, at the moment's anger had reached its peak. Almost even lost my mind. He looked at the standing dead beast, his chest was heaving and his eyes were out of focus. He couldn't figure out why his companion died like this. Advertisement: how cruel are these people in front of them? Life after life disappeared in front of them, and they didn't feel the slightest bit of guilt. On the contrary, Bayonetta even smiled with satisfaction. What kind of person is this? He had no time to think. There is only one idea in Scott's mind: to protect Chin, and to avenge his dead companions. The only possible outsider, Phil Coulson, and a group of agents, in the torrential rain, powerlessly watched one person die after another. The fear is beyond words. Phil Coulson never thought that he would face such a situation one day. Terrorize the enemy. He helplessly smiled bitterly. Perhaps the final outcome was just as he had imagined. But that's fine, in the final chapter of his life, he can also contribute his own strength to this world. He squeezes the communicator tightly, lifts it up slightly, and waits for the final bombing order at any time. At this time, on the base car with only the chassis, Chin hugged the dead Storm and stood up slowly, attracting everyone's attention. The gin-red hair and the silver cloak behind Storm fluttered in the strong wind, and her eyes were gradually colored with red, and she glanced one by one, when she noticed Logan, who was struggling and buried in the mud pit. The dead companion beast, and Bayonetta floating with an indifferent smile. Chin, completely changed. In other words, anger affected a terrifying force hidden in her spiritual world. Rumble. The sky was covered with dark clouds, thunderbolts crisscrossed and exploded, the dense thunderstorms exploded, the night was illuminated by lightning, and the earth trembled. A few Source Project fighters who were faintly surrounded all around suddenly discovered the crisis, and the virtual data in front of the goggles soared at an alarming rate. And the source of the soaring price was Chin. Everyone immediately instinctively made an attacking gesture. Bayonetta bit her pink lips charmingly, and her voice reached everyone's ears. Oh? Is it finally coming out? The tone paused, and then with a trace of regret, it's just the appearance, isn't it exciting enough? Ask for a monthly ticket for flowers, thank you guys for your support, thank you so much. Advertisement. Chapter 36. Chin hugged Storm and walked forward step by step. After stepping on the air, she did not follow the laws of physics and fell, but seemed to be supported by an invisible floor, and slowly walked in front of Scott. Chin. Scott suppressed the anger in his heart, he looked at Chin worriedly, the figure of the latter floated on the ground, glanced at his lover, and handed Storm to Scott. Jin, what do you want to do? Facing her lover's words, Chin did not answer, but slowly stepped on the muddy road step by step, walking towards Bayonetta. Wang. Seeing Chin's movements, the figures of other Yuan Plan fighters appeared around Chin with movements invisible to the naked eye, but there was no movement yet. Chin just gave a look. In an instant, the terrifying red energy was like a river pouring down, overwhelming and suppressing several Source Project fighters. Make several people unable to move at all. Boom. The ground was cracked, and the heavy pressure almost caused several soldiers to kneel on the ground, and the armor shell also creaked under the force of this vast force. Bayonetta didn't make a move, but watched with interest. Chin ignored several struggling people, and still walked towards Bayonetta. When the distance was only a few meters, her body slowly floated up, parallel to Bayonetta. Chin's face was calm, not as painful and angry as before. It's a pity that the closed heart in my heart has only been opened a little bit. Bayonetta said regretfully, playing with the fur on his shoulder with one hand. It's a pity on the mouth, but there is no regret on the face. The terrifying energy around Qin faintly began to boil, and the surrounding space also vibrated. The heavy rain that stopped all over the sky turned into wisps of steam and dissipated as if it had been burned. Bayokui just tilted his head and said softly, "Are you planning to do something to me?" Qin. While talking, I saw dark purple shadows staggering. In a trance, Qin actually saw that the woman in front of her didn't know when she became a storm. Familiar faces, familiar eyes, and that familiar voice. "Jin, are you going to kill me?" Advertisement. Jin, remember, we used to be best friends. Qin. Storm's familiar voice kept coming into Qin's ears, which changed her originally indifferent expression, and her thinking seemed to be in chaos. The two faces of the woman she hated and her best friend and comrade in arms changed alternately. You are that woman. No, you are Ororo. Who are you?" Qin covered her head with her hands, her expression twisted. In the distance, Phil Coulson, Logan lying wrapped in mud, and Scott saw this. Their faces changed drastically, the vibrations of the sky and the earth became bigger and bigger, and the boiling energy that pervaded and swept through was looming. The earth shook violently. Everything around, all the cars in the convoy, debris, mud, gravel, and rain began to float slowly in an anti-regular nature. Scott knew that the woman had influenced Qin, and without any hesitation, he immediately took off his purple quartz glasses and opened his eyes. Boom! A terrifying red energy that far exceeded the previous limit was emitted from the eyes, and the thick red energy shot at the laser to tear the night and shot at Bayokui. The latter turned into Storm, frowned slightly, feeling the hot and violent energy. She stretched out her hand slightly, and a magic circle of dark purple energy appeared in her hand. Boom! The destructive red energy was just like that being activated by the magic circle, and the gorgeous red sparks splashed all over the sky, but not only that, seeing Bayokui lightly turning his green and white jade hand, the magic circle also rotated and shot towards him. The red energy ray actually bounced back. But the target is not Scott, but refracted to another angle. That place was Wolverine Logan. The latter's eyes were astonished, and before he had time to react, he was blasted straight by the violent red rays. Rumble! Terrifying rays bombarded the ground, making a loud noise, and the ground cracked a lot under the impact. Logan was bathed in this torrent of terrifying rays, his skin was scorched black, and his flesh and blood had begun to evaporate. Steel Claw has even started to turn red. Advertisement. It can be seen that the temperature is high. Seeing Logan's miserable condition, Scott immediately closed his eyes without hesitation, and put on the purple quartz goggles again. Without the rays, Logan finally took a breath, and the powerful self-healing ability appeared at this moment. In just a few seconds, the almost melted flesh grew back, but the uniform on the upper body was burned clean, revealing the incomparably strong upper body. Relieved, Logan didn't blame Scott, but immediately stood up and looked at Qin with concern. Although Scott's blow did not harm Bayokui, at least it affected her deception magic, so that the confused thinking that had been deceived immediately became clear. Then the powerful red energy impact immediately blasted Bayokui in front of him into the air. The latter reacted and also used magic to block in front of him, but he still moved back tens of meters in mid-air. Tisk, it's tricky. Seeing his goal sober, Bayokui was not disappointed. The seeds of deceit have been planted, and she just needs to wait for it to bloom and bear fruit. When the time comes, she will have an extra loyal puppet. After calming down, seeing Bayokui's appearance, Qin couldn't guess what this woman was thinking for a while. In the short confrontation, this woman's cunning, viciousness, and indifference have been fully displayed. And he is also very good at deceiving and playing with people's hearts. Like the devil. Now Qin is also caught in a dilemma. Although the closed door in her heart has been opened, her strength has grown explosively, but suppressing those fighters from the Source Project has divided part of her strength. There is also a woman whose strength is unpredictable. She wanted to win, but she was afraid it would be difficult. But the enmity between Storm and Beast, she didn't want to just give up. How about killing those fighters first? Qin's eyes flickered. However, Bayokui understood her thoughts in an instant, and said with a soft smile, "If you want to kill them, then you can't do it. Although I don't care about their lives, they are all dead. I am not very good to the company." Confession. Ask for a monthly ticket for flowers. Thank you for your support. Because of the time difference, the update is usually in the evening and early morning. Advertisement. Chapter 37. She can't do it alone, so add us. Wang. A cold female voice full of metallic texture suddenly came to everyone's ears. Accompanied by it, several bright figures in the sky descended from the sky like meteors. Boom! 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 6 silhouettes descended from the sky, and fell into the air in an instant, hitting a group of people not far away. Everyone is wearing the source plan standard armor, and everyone is holding different weapons: blue technological longbow, red long sword, orange Japanese sword, double guns, and so on. Everyone's long hair of various colors swayed in the strong wind, exuding a cold temperament. The moment they appeared, everyone maintained an attacking posture, and among them, on the top of the cart 100 meters away, was a woman wearing blue source plan armor. The long arrow rested on the bowstring, pointing directly at Bayonetta. It turns out that you group of rebels, Ash, the leader of the genetic power, unexpectedly came to this universe. It seems that there are many capable people among you. Bayonetta's eyes moved, and the figure holding an orange-yellow Japanese sword, with long silver hair tied up, paused for a moment, and a trace of fear flashed in his eyes. Those guys are really stupid enough for the experimental level ultralight alpha blade. You took him from the lab. We are not weapons, we, with our humanity, will never succumb to violence and experimentation. Ash's voice was cold. Look at what you have done. Everything is just for conquest and desire. A group of selfish people should be destroyed. Bayonetta waved his hands. Ha, I didn't kill these people, they just came to watch the show. Don't use this pretender's face. Do you think I don't know who you are? Bayonetta? Humph. The eyes under the blue lens mask fixed on Bayonetta, with the murderous intent. No, you are the leader of the Black Rose, Pale Witch, LeBlanc. I noticed you a long time ago. As Bayonetta, you cooperated with the mastermind of the original planning company. After that, the abnormal behavior of the original planning company must have your shadow. Advertisement LeBlanc? Isn't it Bayonetta? False identity? Cheen, Phil Coulson, Cyclops Scott's heart moved, and a few short exchanges just revealed some deep information. The Pale Witch LeBlanc, who assumed the false identity of Bayonetta, and the fighters of the original plan company's anti-espionage team invaded the Earth to perform tasks, and then as the resistance organization's gene-powered Ash, led the fight against the original plan company. Although we don't know the details of the Gene Power Rebel Army for the time being, at least, it seems that the Earth side and the Gene Power belong to an alliance at this moment. Fight Source Project Corporation and the Pale Witch. On the Gene Power side, the soldiers with double guns and the lady with the red zero-pulse blade stared at the anti-espionage team soldier with the high-frequency red blade, and tilted their heads. Hey, we didn't finish the fight in the lab last time, let's see who is stronger today. Man with dual particle beam guns, with one hand on his shoulder and one pistol aimed at the target. The woman's blade is also directed at the man. The latter's thick metallic silver was full of disdain. Luxian, Fiona, if it weren't for the concept prototype, you would have died in my hands long ago. You are still so arrogant, G. No one can escape from my shadow, neither can you. Even if he is suppressed by the powerful psychokinesis, G is still full of confidence and bloodthirsty. Everyone is not communicating. Over there, Ash and LeBlanc faced each other head-on. Facing the siege of the gene-powered rebels, the latter did not show panic, but looked indifferent. Sure enough, I still can't underestimate you. It seems that in the future, I have to talk to those guys about how to target you. The tone is full of threats. But Ash was fearless, and said coldly, do you think you can still leave? Wang. Following the words of the leader, all the other Source Project fighters' armor shone with energy, especially the fighter holding the super light alpha blade, with a finger placed between his eyebrows, his figure leaning forward slightly, and the surging energy poured into his whole body. Advertisement. A cold breath permeated the audience. Although you have the blood of heroes, it's a pity that you don't know enough about magic. Goodbye, little Ash and Cheen. You have successfully made me interested. See you next time. I hope to see you again. You kneel before me. LeBlanc bit her pink lips lightly, blinked her right eye, blew a kiss to her, and said something seductively. As her voice fell, the black roses around her and the rest of the Source Project fighters appeared, and disappeared under the dark night in this picture full of dark beauty. Ash loosened the bowstring, and the particle energy arrow also dissipated. After putting down the composite bow, she stared at the direction where the other party disappeared, bit her red lips and remained silent. Magic. Thinking of the word, she sighed slightly. The composite longbow shrank, and finally became a metal plate. She then put it on her waist, jumped off the roof of the car, and walked towards Qin and the others. The rest of the soldiers also took back their weapons and gathered together. This is where human civilization and the gene-powered rebels meet. It's really troublesome. That woman is indeed the leader of Black Rose, the Witch of Tricks. I'm afraid she has already activated the deceitful magic when we came. Lucian said in a deep voice. I thought it was an opportunity. The dark-skinned, silver-haired boy in silver armor and holding a green warblade lamented. Ike, don't worry, we will always get a chance. Fiona reassured. Ash nodded her head, and a cold voice came, that's right, the original plan goes against the grain, and there will always be flaws. We will definitely destroy the evil. After finishing speaking, she looked at Qin and the others. Scott was holding them, and Wolverine was carrying the dead Storm Ororo and Beast on her back. Seeing the sadness on their faces, she sighed slightly. Please forgive me. Ask for a monthly ticket for flowers. Here, I would like to thank the boss of Out of Nothing for the reward of 3,000, and thank you for your support. Advertisement. Chapter 38. The death of a companion, the sacrifice, brings nothing but sorrow. In this atmosphere, the crowd came to another base car of Phil Coulson. On the large base vehicle, there are two steel-framed beds, on which lie the Quiet Storm and the Beast, which has retransformed into a human form. Originally, due to the death of their companions, Qin and the others should return to Mutant Academy for the first time. But besides being more willing to know the information that caused all the real culprits, the crowd didn't know how to go back and face that gentle professor. Jean, Scott, and Logan didn't want to see the professor look so devastated. In this sad atmosphere, everyone in the gene-powered resistance army took off their helmets, revealing everyone except the man named Yi. A group of people, some standing, some sitting. Under the bright light, it was Logan who spoke first, and his deep voice was heard by everyone. Those bastards, what the hell are they? And that woman named LeBlanc. Logan, who has always had a violent personality, did not hide his thoughts at all, and his bloodshot eyes revealed the meaning of revenge. He wants to take out the internal organs of those guys and the machine parts with his own hands. Cut off their heads and avenge their companions. Facing everyone's eyes, Ash sat elegantly and straight, and said softly, they all come from a super-large group on a planet in the chaotic universe, the Source Project Group. They originally developed the Source Project technology and created many robots to serve humans. People are at peace in the city. However, outside the city, there is a wasteland. The chaotic world has stimulated the ambition and desire of the top executives of the Source Plan Company. They have used the Source Plan technology to transform many human beings. They have used the genetic blood of ancient heroes, and through powerful machine accessories and special alloy equipment, created a Source Plan fighter that surpassed ordinary people. Advertisement. All of us were born here. In Ash's narration, Phil Coulson, Qin, and others finally peeked into one corner of the chaotic world. According to Ash's narrative, the Source Project Group is one of the forces on a certain planet in the chaotic dimension universe. The deformed and distorted technological world allows them to possess unimaginably terrifying technological power. And because the Source Project Group had been in contact with other worlds and learned many unknown secrets of the universe, it stimulated their ambitions, intending to build powerful technological fighters to rule the world, and they are more willing to move towards a higher level. Ash learned of the company's ambitions. She decided to resist the rule of the UN Project Group and established the Gene Power Resistance Bureau. Lucian, Fiona, Ike, and others are among them. They are not willing to lose their freedom and will. The anti-espionage organization was established by the UN Project Group to eliminate the rebels. G is the leader, and Vane with the crossbow and Katarina with the dagger are all members of it. It doesn't sound too complicated. But it is another person that people are more concerned about. Where is that LeBlanc disguised as Bai Yukui? Who is she? Also a member of Project Source. Logan continued to ask. LeBlanc, a shadow of Jean, Logan, and Scott. The three wished to cut this hateful woman into pieces. Ash shook her head. We don't know much about her information. Her origin has always been very mysterious. She comes from another world, Runeterra, the leader of a Black Rose of her sect. Her existence is to wander in the world. Among the nobles of a certain empire in Runeterra, they used her fantasy to disrupt order and create chaos. We don't know what her ultimate purpose is, but we only know that she may have lived for a long time. Also half a year ago, after we launched a raid on the UNG Project Group, we found information about her traces in a certain branch. Runeterra, the leader of the Black Rose, an imperial noble. The chaotic universe is really huge, and various forces are cluttered. Logan doesn't care about that, he just wants to know how to find LeBlanc. How are we going to find LeBlanc? Advertisement. It's hard. Ash pondered for a moment, then gave a bad message. Looking at the hateful eyes of everyone, she said helplessly, she has a mysterious origin and whereabouts. Although we know her news, we have been trying our best to find it, but we don't have many clues. This time, we came here because we locked the anti-espionage team. Your world. If a person who has lived for an unknown number of years is so easy to be found, then this woman who likes to cause chaos has died countless times. Chin and the others showed disappointment. Even if you know who the enemy is, but you can't find it, what's the use? Phil Coulson, who was standing on the side, saw that the atmosphere had become quiet, and he broke the silence. Chief Ash, can I ask one thing? Speak, Mr. Phil Coulson. The other party did not reject him, and was very polite. Phil Coulson flashed the information in his mind, and while analyzing it, he asked, I would like to ask, can all the worlds of the chaotic universe use some kind of technology or ability to travel freely? Even across dimensions? That's what Phil Coulson and even Director Fury care about. Because it involves the direction of the future human civilization plan. Under Phil Coulson's piercing eyes, Ash nodded. Indeed, there was a kind of portal technology long ago, together with all planets in the universe, for cooperation, trade or war. The source of the portal seems to come from Runeterra. Our world didn't have it, but the Source Project Group suddenly had this technology a few years ago. Maybe it was brought by LeBlanc. We have it because Ike is a very good hacker. He cracked the Source Project Group's confidential code database and learned of this technology. After studying for a long time, we only fully grasped it not long ago. That, our world. Phil Coulson was full of worries. If according to what Ash said, would the Source Project Group let go of a newly discovered world? Ask for a monthly ticket for flowers. Thank you guys for your support, thank you so much. Advertisement. Chapter 39. Ash hesitated for a while, but said calmly, judging from the strategic goals of the Source Project Group, the civilization of the Earth should be included in the list. And, according to the records you showed me before, there should be powerful gods in your universe. I believe that LeBlanc will not let go of this universe. In order to explore the universe, it is very likely that she will even send her men. You've all become her targets, too. In the end, she looked at Chin, Scott, and Logan. These words reminded the three of them of LeBlanc's last words when she left, and they couldn't help but cast a little haze in everyone's hearts. Logan snorted coldly, then let her come, I will cut off her head with my own hands. Scott, who was originally in a bad mood, got angry when he heard Logan's words, and wanted to scold Logan for his recklessness and arrogance, but Qin Yan quickly grabbed her boyfriend, and shook his head slightly when the latter looked over. At this moment, she doesn't want to see conflicts between the two. The delicate atmosphere made the members of the genetic rebels look at each other and admire secretly. Phil Coulson rubbed between his brows, only feeling a headache. Facing the covetousness of a force with more advanced technology and complex technology, the pressure brought by this is not ordinary. At least Phil Coulson felt heavy in his heart. After sorting out his emotions and thoughts for a while, he asked again, what did you pay for opening the portal? Is the price very high? Not small. Ike interjected, he is proficient in this. The portal technology of Runeterra is created through a technology called hex, which requires a type of hex crystal, which comes from runes. There is a life race called Crystal Pioneer in the mainland, and the crystal contains a huge amount of energy. This spar is very precious in Runeterra, at least civilians can't afford it. At least civilians can't afford it. Phil Coulson's eyes flickered, although it is precious, you can get it at a certain price. That's right, we once attacked a secret base of Project Source, and there were many hex crystals inside, so. Ike didn't finish, but everyone already understood. Phil Coulson sighed, and the last fluke was gone. Advertisement. But then the Battle of the New York Sea Ice Park appeared in his mind, which seemed to be different from the way the counterintelligence team came to Earth. So he used his authority to call out the monitoring. A holographic projection appeared in front of everyone, and what was displayed on the screen was the Akatsuki organization, Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigakuni, Sesshomaru, Kizaru and others leaving and disappearing. Pointing at the screen, Phil Coulson asked again. They shouldn't be using the hex portal. Absolutely not. Ike shook his head, because the technological runes of the portal create a particle barrier to defend against space turbulence, there will be a lot of movement. They are obviously not, but I look at them and they seem familiar. He stood facing the projection screen and looked at it carefully. They come from the three dimensions of chaos, order, and chaos, Akatsuki Organization, Admiral Kizaru, commander of the 13th Gaudi I Team Captain Yamamoto Genre Ise Shigakuni, and the big monster Ses Homaru. I've heard about it, but I don't know much about it. Ike scratched his short silver hair. Phil Coulson was not disappointed either. The gene-powered rebel army obviously had a high level of civilization in the chaotic dimension, but compared with a world with devastating single-body power, it was far behind. Nowadays, for these three-dimensional worlds, there is a serious lack of information, at least the tip of the iceberg has been uncovered. The biggest problem is that there are many chaotic forces, and the ones that are clearly eyeing the Earth are the Source Planning Group, the leader of the Black Rose, the Pale Witch LeBlanc, and the mysterious Akatsuki Organization. The crises are multiplying at an alarming rate. No one knows when the war will come. Under a group of hungry wolves, the Earth is like a delicious mutton sheep, everyone wants to take a bite. Ash seemed to guess what Phil Coulson was thinking. Whether it's us or you, in the face of a powerful enemy, all we can do is fight. The war has always been going on, and the unyielding will is eternal. Advertisement. Ash's voice is infectious. The sound is cold, but both the ups and downs and rendering power can make people deeply rooted. In addition to her original experience, there is also that unique personality charm. This point, for example, ancient heroes, and kings all have it. That's why she can become the leader of the gene drive, and can convince a group of like-minded companions to trust her. Phil Coulson, Sheen, and others were all affected by Ash's words, and the haze in their hearts dissipated a lot. Everyone regrouped, and Phil Coulson sincerely extended an invitation to Ash. The rebels and we both have a common enemy. I think we may have some cooperation and we can join forces to fight against the UN Project Group. Earth Civilization, S.H.I.E.L.D, and Mutant will all be your best partners. This sudden invitation made everyone in the Gene Power Rebels look at each other. Ash was a little hesitation, and did not respond immediately, but said cautiously, although we have a common enemy, we want to jointly deal with the source plan. Group, I'm afraid it will be difficult. Although what he said was a bit vague, Phil Coulson and Shinji understood the subtext. To become an ally, one must at least have corresponding qualifications. At least S.H.I.E.L.D doesn't have such qualifications. X-Men probably only has good piano strength. Whether it's Cyclops Scott or Wolverine Logan, ability is good, but it's too weak for Project UN. As far as Scott is concerned, his Cyclops are amazingly destructive, but only if they can hit people. The source plan fighters created by science and technology are agile and innovative, and their individual combat power is not something he can handle. It is estimated that the meeting will be seconds by those people. Ash admired their courage, but according to her, it was more about helping as much as possible unilaterally, rather than being an ally. Ask for a monthly ticket for flowers, thank you for your support. Advertisement. Chapter 40. Be underestimated. But no one is angry, because this is the truth. If they had enough strength, they wouldn't have been defeated, almost crushed, and killed 2 companions in this battle. Phil Coulson showed the utmost sincerity. Ms. Ash, the Earth is not without the ability to resist. Maybe our single combat ability is not strong enough, but our advantage. Here, we are the home field. We have more determination, and fighters who take death as home. We may be weak, but please don't underestimate the potential of human beings. Ash was silent. Scanning Phil Coulson, Jean, Scott, and Logan, he saw the determination in everyone's eyes. After some thought, Ash made a decision in her heart, but she still turned her head to look at the other members. She is the leader of the gene-powered rebels, but she also rarely speaks. Ike shrugged, I think they are very interesting, at least I can feel that they are very sincere. With the world resource, maybe I can do more. Lucian turned the particle beam gun and said in a low voice, with more resistance, freedom will come sooner. Fiona, to protect is to have a strong will. And Yi also opened his mouth slowly. A concentrated will can penetrate stubborn stones. This is a word that has been passed down in my memory. After hearing what her companions said, Ash already knew the answer. She turned her head to look at Phil Coulson and the others. Under the latter's expectant gaze, Ash nodded her chin and finally agreed. With Ash's nod, the simple communication between the two parties has completely become an alliance, and no so-called contract has been established. However, the cooperation intention proposed by both parties is very important. Phil Coulson, Sheen, as S.H.I.E.L.D. Ex-Mutant Academy contributed many resources to the genetically powered rebels to the greatest extent, such as rare metals, materials, and specially built a rear base. Advertisement Echo will also set up a permanent portal in the base. It is convenient for the rebels to repair or do experiments here. After all, in the original world, Gene Power was said to be a rebel army, but in fact it was just a group of elite combat teams, and UN Project's huge tentacles had already involved the entire world. In order to avoid being hunted down, the rebel army had no fixed base. The only hidden base is still somewhere outside the city. Being able to have a stable rear base also facilitates Ike's R&D and research on hex technology and many technologies. Once the rebels are accidentally chased and intercepted, there will be a backup. The rebels will provide some advanced technologies that can be used, such as mature exoskeleton technology and metal limb transformation technology. The former Source Project group has a police force specially made up of exoskeletons, but it is completely useless to the rebels. After all, at their level of single combat ability, it is only a waste of time to kill a strengthening person using an exoskeleton. The latter is an agent that can lose its arms or thighs in SHIELD. After transformation, it can have power beyond ordinary humans. Initial cooperation, so only a few cooperation intentions have been finalized. If the relationship between the two parties is mature enough in the future, the cooperation can be closer. Especially Phil Coulson, who is quite envious of the metal gear of the rebels in front of him. For example, the compound bow in Ash's hand, Hawkeye's mouth is watering. It was late at night, and after the cooperation was finalized, Ash and other members of the rebel army did not leave immediately. The main thing was to prevent the counterintelligence organization in LeBlanc from attacking again. By the way, learn about the information of this world. As for the hammer, the two sides had a tacit understanding and didn't mention it at all. S.H.I.E.L.D. is not very interested in that hammer now, one can't even mention it, and it is clear that there is a big boss behind it. If they make up their minds, wouldn't they be courting death? As for the genetically powered rebels, it's as simple as fishing with a hammer. LeBlanc seems to be very interested in the hammer and will definitely not let this thing go. Phil Coulson S.H.I.E.L.D. and the rebels did not leave Mexico State, but Jean and the others had to bring the bodies of Storm and Beast back to the college for burial. Not far away, they have to go back to face the professor. However, new waves are slowly emerging. Advertisement. Leaving aside the sadness caused by Violin and others returning to the academy, Nick Fury and Tony have arrived at the door of a building in a remote suburb of a small city. At night, the lights on both sides of the road flickered dimly, as if they had been in disrepair for a long time and were faintly failing. The surrounding houses were pitch black, and it seemed that the residents had fallen asleep. The small bungalow in front of me is the only building with lights on, and the owner should not be asleep yet. Still wearing the black leather coat, Fury walked to the door with Tony and rang the doorbell. Drop as the doorbell rang, footsteps came from the closed door, and then a middle-aged man's voice sounded cautious. Who? Mr. Bruce Banner. Nick Fury spoke. The latter immediately fell into silence. After 2 seconds of silence, the doorknob slammed, the door opened, and a middle-aged man in a blue plaid shirt appeared in front of them. And he was the target of Fury and Tony's trip, Bruce Banner. Bruce Banner looked at the two of them. He didn't show any expression when he saw Fury, but he was a little surprised when he saw Tony. Then he said with a little self-mockery, "If you want to catch me, you should put on your armor first, Mr. Stark." Apparently, Bruce Banner thought the two were out to get him. What he didn't expect was that Tony shrugged. Believe it or not, the world is about to enter an era of crisis. I, and even the world, need your help, Doctor. Ha! Bruce Banner with a question mark on his face? What are you talking about? Tell me about the crisis era when you come up. Do you still need my help? Being so tall, his heartbeat was a little unstable, and he immediately stabilized. Ask for a monthly ticket for flowers. Thank you guys for your support. Advertisement. Chapter 41. In a house with only 100 square meters. The holographic projection screen in front of him flashed with black light and shadow, and finally closed. The audience watched the eye-opening video of Bruce Banner, and didn't know what to say for a while. So, that's why you guys came to ask me to join the Avengers. Bruce Banner sat on the sofa, turned his head to look at Tony and Fury, who were sitting with their legs crossed, with complicated expressions. Originally thought that in this world, he could only bear the moniker of a monster and hide in hiding for the rest of his life, and even one day he would become a test product on the test bed. But now, he was wrong. It is true that he is a monster, but he is not the only one. There are more monsters more terrifying than him who have come to the earth. There is also the three-dimensional world of order, chaos, and chaos, which originally made Bruce Banner feel that the concept of parallel universes in the scientific community has been confirmed, but he is not happy, but very dazed. Because, he really didn't expect that, as Tony said, the Earth is really about to enter an era of crisis. A storm of crisis that does not know when will sweep the world. The horror revealed at the tip of the iceberg makes people feel their scalps go numb and their souls shudder at a glance. Taking a deep breath, he forcibly suppressed his disturbed emotions, and said to Tony in a complicated manner, "Do you want me to fight those monsters together? I was afraid that the body would be beaten to death." He didn't say this sentence, but it was revealed in his eyes and expression. Tony shrugged. "Nick Fury," his deep voice is full of sincerity, "the world needs you. Our new round of crisis has arrived." Just 20 minutes before we spoke, another group of uninvited guests set their sights on the civilization of the Earth. "We have reason, believe me, war is not far away from us. Our men have been killed and wounded over 100, and the X-Men sacrificed 2 of them today. I wouldn't say joining us would be a hero, because you might die in the war, but we've got to have someone who will stand up and do whatever it takes." He took out a unique mobile phone and placed it on the corner of the table in front of him. Bruce Banner was silent, and he held out his hand, which delighted Nick and Tony. The former picked up the phone and looked at the information and recording screens transmitted from it. Advertisement full of technology and ruthless, unprecedented battles. Under the highest technology of human beings, those people are like death god walking on the boundary of life and death, harvesting life easily and ruthlessly. Corpses littered the muddy ground, letting the rain wash away. The woman with short white hair whose throat was cut, and the beast whose neck was twisted and sacrificed stood, all of these were impacting his heart. The heart began to beat faster involuntarily. The inexplicable emotion made him a little uncomfortable. Dr. Banner knew it was anger. But all human beings, watching their compatriots being harvested by the group of freaks from other worlds, watching the woman torture Logan with teasing and indifference, condescending ridicule, and treating human beings as goods of equal value in words and deeds. Anyone will be sad when the rabbit dies. Putting down the phone, Bruce Banner closed his eyes and remained silent, while Tony and Fury didn't rush, but waited. This is where the two are smart. Just as the two of them thought, after more than 10 seconds of silence, Bruce Banner opened his eyes and said softly, "I am willing to join the Avengers, but I hope you can prepare an impenetrable cage in advance. Recalling the woman I once loved. Earth is also where she lives. This is also the last thing he does for her. The morning sun is always so warm." On the open balcony on the top floor of the Xiaoping building, a beautiful girl in a white t-shirt and sweatpants sat on a chair, enjoying the sunshine while chewing today's breakfast in her little mouth. Compared with the past, girls always show a lively personality when eating. The delicate little ears moved, and the sound of footsteps could be heard. Just behind him, Lyon came over, wearing the same t-shirt with a Panda Q version printed on it, and holding a sliced fruit platter. Put it on the small table, and sat down beside the girl. Advertisement. The girl turned her head and gave a big smile, then unceremoniously picked up the fork and ate the fruit after dinner. Under the flat balcony, there is a relatively wide road. People come and go, people who go to school, go to work, and there are also teenagers with skateboards. The thoughts and atmosphere in the morning are always so beautiful. "What are we going to do today, Lyon?" the girl asked as she happily ate the fruit. Liang lay on the recliner, with his hands resting on his head, squinting his eyes slightly, looking at the sun in the sky, thought for a while and asked, "What do you want to do today, Saber?" "Me?" The girl tilted her head slightly and thought about it. Recently, with the help of Lyon, she has also gained a preliminary understanding of this world. Just some learning left. But these can be done on a daily basis, and today I can give myself a little vacation. Well, the word holiday is also learned from Lyon. After all, Lyon opened an office, but every customer who came to inquire, was excused by Lyon on the grounds of vacation. After more than a week, she found that there was not a day without a holiday. The girl didn't understand. However, Lyon plausibly said that the vacation is just for a better job. Too bad she didn't see Lyon working anyway. At least, today must be a day off, and she is planning to give herself a day off, so she thought about it, and said seriously, Lyon, shall we go to the movies? What? Watching a movie? Lyon was really puzzled. He turned his head and looked at the original 3No girl. Why did this girl suddenly want to go to the movies? Logically speaking, shouldn't girls like to watch that food blogger, or food show? I was watching TV yesterday, and it seemed that there was an animation movie made in the name of food, saying that food can shine. I want to learn. The girl said seriously. Forward. What shiny dishes are all deceitful, wake up girl. Lyon was completely speechless, and then thought about it, as if, in fact, he could have created the man who made the glowing dishes. Ask for a monthly ticket for flowers. Thank you guys for your support, thank you so much. Advertisement. Chapter 42. The serious teenage girl finally decides to go to the movies anyway. Lyon didn't care, so he followed Haida to watch the so-called luminous cooking animation movie. Well, how should I put it, it's completely similar to the big movie of Joy, it's completely an anime movie for children to have fun with their families, and luminous cooking is just the theme. Even if the girl is dumbfounded, she knows that this so-called luminous cuisine is not reliable at all. The girl knew that she had been deceived by the movie's propaganda. Although the girl was not angry, she was very disappointed. After all, it was the first time she was looking forward to the glowing food so much, so she really wanted to go to the company that made the animation film to inquire about it. Just got pulled by Lyon. Today's girls don't know how to restrain themselves. They belong to the stage where they can't attack lightly or seriously. When they went out at night in Hell's Kitchen, they met a bunch of gangsters. When they saw the girl and Lyon, the gangsters immediately thought about it, but they were strong. The maliciousness was noticed by the girl. Don't wait for these people to make any moves. The girl directly summoned the black mud to pull all the gangsters in. In the true sense, there was no dead body. If you really let the girl go to the production company, maybe reward the other party with a curry stick, then it will be a big game. After all, it is not enough to die. The girl who was not in a happy mood huddled in the office's kitchen, holding a tablet computer while studying the cooking. Saber's character seemed dull, but she would appear very persistent when dealing with certain things, such as glowing cooking. She thinks it should exist. Lyon felt much more comfortable because of this. Most of the food cooked by the girl herself went into his stomach. The girl's ability is too strong, no matter how you study it. Let's not talk about whether it glows or not, but at least every food, except for the mediocre taste at the beginning, will be improved in the follow-up, and then fully mastered, becoming a very delicious delicacy. That's what it's like to be bitter before sweet. Thanks to Lyon's digestion ability is strong enough, otherwise I would eat like this every day, not to mention that I couldn't eat enough. Even if I ate it, I would be fat into a ball within 2 days. Another day of rice bugs. Listening to the movement from the kitchen, Lyon, who was half lying on the sofa and swiping his phone, lamented the beauty of life. Advertisement: Xavier Youth Mutant Academy, in an empty meeting room. Bright lights almost illuminated the entire conference room into daylight. It's just that the atmosphere of at the moment is extremely sad. Logan sat in a corner with his head down, wondering what to think. On the 2 metal platforms in the center, there are the corpses of Storm and Beast, Gretchen, Scott, Nightcrawler with blue skin, and Colossus with metal muscle appearance, standing looking at the 2 pale faces, eyes full of flushed. And the saddest one was undoubtedly Charles in a wheelchair. He stretched out his hand tremblingly, caressing the cheeks of Storm and Beast. The old faces were full of sadness. Eyes are already moist. He looked at the 2 of them, recalling the bits and pieces of the past together in his mind, the ups and downs along the way. Both of them accompanied him without any complaints. But now, it has been separated forever. A white-haired man giving a brunette, the emotion is almost unbearable. With the experience behind him, he thought he was sensible enough, but he still couldn't accept the departure of the 2 of them. No one spoke at this time and remained silent. I don't know how long it has passed, the professor's old voice has become hoarse, breaking the silence. Maybe, I shouldn't let you go. Professor. Chin's lips moved and wanted to say something, but Professor X waved his hands weakly, leaned back on the wheelchair, and closed his eyes wearily. At this moment, the metal door that was originally closed outside the meeting room suddenly opened. 3 unexpected guests walked in. Another old voice with a slowly oppressive low-pitched preemptive strike. Charles, it seems that I may not have come at the right time. The appearance of the three made the X-Men people suddenly turn around and look over, their eyes immediately became fierce, and the flames of anger could not be concealed at all. Advertisement Cyclops Scott puts one hand on the goggles, waiting to launch rays at any time. Magneto, Mystique, and Sabretooth, are you coming to the school suddenly at this time to start a war with us? Scott gritted his teeth. The person who came was just another group of mutants who were opposed to the X-Men. Magneto was wearing armor and a black cloak, and a brown helmet that blocks psychic power. He didn't even look at Scott, staring at his decadent old friend. Charles, I once said that because of your cowardice and so-called kindness, it will kill you. Death to all of you. These words aroused the anger of the crowd even more. Mystique, who was standing beside Magneto, glanced at Beast on the metal stage, and there was a trace of sadness on the blue face. Once, she and Beast also had a tinge of affection, although the latter was cut off by different ideas, but the friendship still exists. There have been countless confrontations and countless battles before, and the two sides still uphold a tacit understanding and never made a deadly move. But now, Beast Hank was lying quietly on the metal platform. The sad atmosphere became chilling. Magneto came uninvited, not to mention, and when he came, he was sneering, which was tantamount to adding fuel to the fire. Jean and the others had killing intent. Magneto ignored the eyes of everyone who wanted to kill him, and looked at the silent professor's profile in disappointment. You're still old, Charles. The professor sighed, finally opened his eyes, the wheelchair moved, and faced Magneto. The tiredness in his eyes was undisguised. Eric, I guess you're not here just to mock me. I'm really not in any mood right now. Magneto looked at the sadness on his old friend's face, and he didn't seem to be sarcastic. He shook his head. Raven said that there was a big event in New York 2 weeks ago, and this event was suppressed by some people. Not a single bit of information has spread. Raven has tracked it down, and only got a little superficial information. You guys left at that point. I wonder what happened. Charles, why Hank, Storm died. The recent dark tide surged, which made Magneto aware that something was wrong, so he came to the academy to inquire. Please ask for a monthly ticket for flowers, thank you for your support. Advertisement. Chapter 43. Under the day-like light, the horrified expressions of Raven, Magneto and Sabretooth were reflected. Walter. Sabretooth, who was originally silent, couldn't help but speak. Sabretooth, as the name suggests, is like a beast like Sabretooth, rebellious, bloodthirsty and brutal. As Wolverine Logan's younger brother, he has a very similar mutant ability. Because of his powerful self-healing ability, he and Logan have far more than ordinary human lifespan. Since World War II, I don't know how many people have been killed. Beast's instincts made him love hunting life, and he surrendered to the mighty, Magneto. He is proud to think that the only person in this world who can make him truly surrender is Magneto. This man possesses great power and at the same time has the heart of a strong man. His thoughts lasted for a long time, but today, his pride was shattered. What's ya organization, what 3 parallel dimension universes, what source project group? Sabretooth's face turned ugly. Raven looked at Charles in disbelief, so that's why the dark tide has been surging for the last 2 weeks. Yes. The professor closed his eyes again. This Raven couldn't help but took a step back. She couldn't believe such a thing, it was terrible, but just hearing about it, she could feel the overwhelming despair and fear. Just the tip of the iceberg revealed, already makes people breathless. The chaotic dimensional universe is just a world with a lower level, and a source project group already makes people feel suffocated. Those fighters of the terrorist project wearing alloy armor easily crushed the X-Men and killed Storm and Beast in an instant. What kind of strength is this? Not to mention the almost mysterious Akatsuki organization, who can easily destroy the girl who changes the terrain with a random swing of a sword. Advertisement. The big monster says Homaru, the commander-in-chief Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigakuni. Meiluo Tianting, God Realm, all of these are invisible and make people breathless. Today, the Earth may be invaded by these terrifying behemoths at any time. The Earth is like a flatboat in a storm, it may capsize anytime and anywhere. Magneto narrowed his eyes and let out a breath after the shock. It seems that the ideological dispute between us can stop. As soon as these words came out, the rest of the people present looked surprised. The battle between the X-Men and Brotherhood is not so fierce. In a sense, it can even be said to have reached the point of life and death. Definitely, although these are only displayed externally, there is basically room for internally, but the concept does not fit this point. It's not false either. For this reason, the two sides have been fighting for more than 10 years. Now Magneto actually took the initiative to reach a settlement. I can fight for the cause of the ethnic group, even at the expense of everything. There will inevitably be a war between us and mankind in the future, but no matter what, we and mankind are the masters of the Earth after all. Those aliens are trying to put the war on the Earth. They won't be doing stupid things like infighting. Magneto snorted coldly. To put it bluntly, he can cause a bloodbath on the Earth, and that is also a matter for him and the human group. If people outside the Earth want to make up their minds, or even occupy the Earth, he definitely will not agree. What's more, in Magneto's view, external threats are much more terrifying than humans. Reconciliation is also self-preservation. Charles wasn't surprised, he knew this old friend was a wise man. It's just that he didn't expect that the day he hoped to reconcile would be today. The professor's closed eyes moved, but still did not open, and he warned wearily, "Eric, I know your character, but I still want to give you a piece of advice. If you meet those people, don't try to use your own ability solved." Advertisement. With that, he opened his eyes and met Magneto's gaze. They are more terrifying than you imagined, and their methods and abilities are also more diverse. Magneto is a proud man. He knew how terrifying those people Charles mentioned were, but he was not afraid. He stared at Professor X and said solemnly, "Let me see their strength, Charles." After the words fell, he reached out and took off his helmet. Raven and Sabretooth hesitated to speak, but finally did not speak. Jean and the others looked at each other, and when they looked at Magneto, their eyes had already changed subtly. Magneto, although he was once an enemy, he does have that convincing charm. No wonder so many mutants follow him. Many people can't match this calmness. The professor finally smiled. The familiar Eric he used to have returned. When they formed the first generation of X-Men, they trusted each other so much. Tired eyes twinkled brightly. The majestic spiritual power covered the entire conference room. In an instant, the professor pulled everyone's minds into memory. However, Magneto ETAL's vision went dark. Boom! A terrifying roar exploded. From the quiet and bright conference room, they came to the night in an instant, and they came to the road along the coast. Under the night, terrifying dark clouds were churning, and on the opposite side of the bank, terrifying blood-colored light cannons and golden rays of light continued to explode, and the impact of powerful force made the river surge wildly. There will be an update tonight. Advertisement. Chapter 44. Not Far Away can also be seen, personally experienced the original X-Men, and Nick Fury, Tony, and others watched the battle carefully. It's just that the three of Magneto are no longer in the mood to look at them. The three looked forward in horror. The three of them are not ordinary people, but their eyesight is much better than ordinary people, and they are almost dilapidated in that seaside park. Every blood-colored light cannon and every golden light beam triggered an explosive power comparable to that of a missile. It's just that the aftermath of the battle made the river flow backwards, rolling backwards into the sky. And with the passage of time, new changes appeared, Shirai Sunspot from Academy City, and then Akatsuki, who appeared with long silver white hair, a moon seal on his forehead, hexagonal plums floating on the white kimono, and golden eyes brilliant, the extravagant big monster Sesshomaru. Wearing a black windbreaker embroidered with red clouds, a hat with wind chimes on their heads, rings with code names on their fingers, and nail polish painted on their nails, the members of the Akatsuki organization launched a hunt for the Admiral Kizaru. The stunning appearance, the scheming away from the calculations, and the terrifying scene of finally fighting with the yellow ape on the river in the seaside park. One by one into the minds of the three of Magneto. The speed reading that cannot be seen by the naked eye, the ninjutsu of summoning all kinds of current sharks out of thin air, the mysterious and terrifying pupils with hooks, and the summoning of huge dark purple energy skulls. All kinds of strange means emerge in endlessly. And what makes Magneto quite concerned is that it is the Scorpion, a member of the rickety organization, who can also manipulate iron sand, which is quite similar to his own ability. The three asked themselves, no matter who they are, even if they are as proud as Magneto, they have to admit that if he was the one being besieged, he might not last long and die. Each of these members is as described by Charles, and there is no difference between individual combat power and monsters. But even in such a siege, the figure in a navy coat and suit was still able to deal with it calmly. This shocking battle scene made Magneto's heart sink. Until, the godlike old man broke through the barrier that blocked the world and descended from the sky. The calm old man suppressed everyone present just by relying on his aura. Advertisement. His words and deeds showed the demeanor of the captain of the 13th Guardian team. The majestic sweeping momentum shook the sky and made it difficult for the three of Magneto to breathe. Even more unbelievable, the big monster Sesshomaru, wrapped in blue demonic power, confronted the head captain Yamamoto Motoriase Shigakuni. As if the end was coming, the sky was covered with dark clouds, and the power of thunder raged in all directions. Not to mention fighting, under the confrontation of the momentum of these two terrifying powerhouses, even if you want to move, it will become difficult. At this time, Magneto, Sabretooth and Raven knew what Charles and others had experienced. And why does it create that sense of urgency in Charles et al.? The Akatsuki organization on the river in the distance and the girl with the black holy sword who fought against the yellow ape, stepped on the waves out of thin air. In the turbulent world, above the doomsday scene, two terrifying powerhouses confronted each other, and the wind and waves poured back heavily. But in the end, the whole world freezes at this moment. The screen changed, and came to a firm named Devil May Cry. Here I saw the girl with frightening combat power and another young and handsome man. In the store, I heard some tip of the iceberg information about the three-dimensional universe of order, chaos, and chaos that the man said. After these messages were deeply rooted in their minds, the world changed again, and they came to that stormy night. On the Gobi Desert, Mexico. I also witnessed the crushing massacre of several Source Project fighters against the highest weapon of mankind. Yes, in the eyes of Magneto and others, it was a naked massacre. The strength, cunning, viciousness, indifference and cruelty of the woman named Bayonetta were all displayed in front of the three of Magneto. The fire shines, the muddy land is full of corpses, and the rain washes away the mud mixed with blood, which freezes here. Charles's old and calm voice reached everyone's ears. That's all you need to know, Eric. Advertisement. Magneto turned his head to look at this old friend. At the moment, he was looking at Storm and Beast, who were hugged by Scott and carried by Logan. His eyes were full of sadness. He understood that seeing his students and friends die with his own eyes was tantamount to stabbing a knife in an originally bleeding heart. It was impossible for Magneto's character to comfort Charles. At the moment, he was also heavy in his heart, and he finally understood where the depressed and heavy emotions of Gretchen and the others came from. Facing such a mysterious and unknown world. Who can say easy? These people are all monsters, even more monsters than I am. Sabretooth couldn't help but cursed. He was originally violent and cruel, but now he was a little scared. Face the fear of those monsters. He didn't even know if he could really survive in front of these people with his self-healing ability. It is estimated that any light cannon or laser can blow him to pieces. There is also a limit on how to strengthen the iron frame. Sabretooth knew well that in front of those people, he was no different from a live target. Those people could reach subsonic speed, sonic speed at every turn. The point is that these people don't seem to be the strongest existence in the three-dimensional world. There are even scarier monsters. What god realm, Mei Luo Tianting, Demon Queen, it makes people despair. On the contrary, Sabretooth admired the man named Lyon. Not only was he able to recover the girl who was born in the cursed darkness, but he also seemed to have slaughtered countless demons originally, offended a boss like the Demon Queen, and returned to the earth safely. The courage, the strength, Sabretooth suspected that the boy must be a monster too. Ask for a monthly ticket for flowers. Thank you guys for your support. Advertisement. Chapter 45. Think about New York actually hiding such a big boss quietly. Sabretooth and Raven looked at each other with a heartbeat, and began to think carefully about what outrageous things Brotherhood had done in Hell's Kitchen in New York before, right? Being active in New York, isn't that the same as hiding under the eyes of others? Thinking about Brotherhood always having a pair of invisible eyes staring behind him when performing missions, the two of them couldn't help but get chills down their backs. Fortunately, Brotherhood does not have too many activities in New York. The only previous large-scale mission was at the Statue of Liberty a year ago. Magneto attempted to use the special ability of a mutant girl to transform the entire New York high-rise into a mutant, but was stopped by the X-Men. In the end, Logan was thrown into the river. Thinking about it now, the X-Men might not be able to stop them by then, and that boss might have to do it himself. Thinking of this, both of them were a little scared. Fine. How strong does one have to be to offend the Demon Queen, slaughter an unknown number of demons, and be dubbed a demon hunter by other demons? Coincidentally, Magneto also thought of Lyon. He has developed a lot of interest in this mysterious strong man. Charles, maybe, we should go see this Lyon. Wang. The world shook, and in the next second, everyone returned to the college conference room. Sabretooth looked at the decadent dear younger brother sitting in the corner. He walked over, looked down at Logan condescendingly, and snorted coldly, "You are always so cowardly, my younger brother." Logan still bowed his head and didn't speak. Sabretooth frowned. For this younger brother, his feelings were very complicated, and they fought against each other, but at the same time, they still maintained that relationship. Advertisement normally, he always showed an attitude of torturing and killing Logan. But when Logan fell into difficulties and deadlocks, he would inadvertently give a little help. For his only younger brother, Logan, he was filled with anger at the sight of this uselessness. From Logan's point of view, it was his recklessness that led to Storm's death, and he hated himself for being helpless. Seeing his companions being killed with his own eyes, the pain and anger were like ants gnawing at the heart. But Sabretooth is different. What is a companion? From his point of view, there are no so-called companions, natural selection, survival of the fittest, and the weak should have the awareness to be killed. The same is true this time. Storm and Beast were killed simply because they were weak and incompetent. Leaving Beast alone, is Storm's ability weak? Once not weak, able to manipulate the power of celestial phenomena, the power of nature, originally ability is extremely excellent. If you can widen the distance, you can completely control the situation. But the strongest ability is easily killed. This is not dead? Logan suffered because of the death of this incompetent waste, originally also the performance of waste. Sabretooth, who didn't want to see such an attitude, let out an angry growl, reached out and grabbed Logan's neck, lifted him up, and slammed into the metal wall behind him. Boom! Huge amounts of power impact directly hit the sound. It also attracted the attention of the rest of the people. When they saw Logan being lifted up by Sabretooth's neck, Scott and Colossus, who thought they were under attack, were about to make a move, but they were blocked by Sheen. Mystique Raven also stood in front of the two. Facing the puzzled gazes of Scott, Colossus, and Nightcrawler, Sheen shook her head meaningfully. Seeing the peaceful expressions of Charles and Magneto Wong, the three of Scott thought deeply, but did not take any action. Logan's face was scribbled, and Sabretooth lifted him up against the wall in a decadent manner. He lowered his eyes and looked at the big brother whom he hadn't seen for a long time. With a hoarse voice, he said, "Victor, let go." Advertisement. His tone was calm and dejected, but there was a lingering irritability in his eyes. Not only was Sabretooth not afraid, but she stepped up her taunting. "That's why I look down on you, Logan. Do you remember when we were little, always fighting over hours, and you were sentimental every time? When we serve in the army, we are all killers, we are fighters, we are strong. But you have never lacked the heart of a strong man. Do you think you killed someone else, so you pretend to be decadent and show it to someone? Now we have already sounded the alarm. We are at war. Your enemy is the woman who plays with you. She likes to see you like this. Are you going to face that woman with this attitude?" Sabretooth's angry voice sounded like thunder in Logan's mind, slowly waking him up. Seeing the change in Logan's eyes, Sabretooth continued, "Don't forget who you are, Wolverine. You can never kill. You should use the anger you should use to burn that damn woman who played with you, and eat her with your teeth, flesh and blood, tear her body apart with your steel claws." Logan took a deep breath and said calmly, "Put me down." Sabretooth stared at Logan, and slowly let go. When Logan landed, he glanced at Sabretooth and said hoarsely, "I owe you one." Snort. Sabretooth snorted coldly and said nothing. The corner of Magneto's mouth curled up slightly, and he looked at Charles. "What about you, Charles?" "We never fear war," Charles said calmly. "Just because he's gentle doesn't mean he's cowardly. In a sense, he's the most dangerous person on Earth. He will make that woman named LeBlanc, the UN Project Group, pay the price in blood. Ask for a monthly ticket for flowers. Thank you guys for your support." Advertisement. Chapter 46. The peaks surrounding the sea in the Pacific Ocean all protrude from the flat ground. Although they also form a ring, they are staggered in 3s and 5s, each with its own posture. It looks like the sacred mountains on the sea in the picture. And in the island surrounded by peaks. It is not known when a military base was established. It covers an area of about 23 kilometers, not big but not small. The surrounding peaks naturally became a natural barrier, and no one would be able to notice this military base. The internal facilities of the base are very complete. There are military docks, military railway lines, testing grounds, shooting ranges, training grounds, communication hubs, and various military bases. Just empty and empty. And at the moment, in the sky above the base, several Quinjets slowly fell from the clouds, and happened to land on the exclusive aircraft park. A group of seabirds flew leisurely in the blue sky. The freshness and nature made the members of the gene-powered rebels who got off the plane feel very happy. Everyone turned their heads to look left and right with great interest. I like here. The warm sunshine fell on everyone's faces, and Ike stretched his waist and praised. It's indeed a beautiful world, but it's a pity that we don't see such scenery in our world. Ash sighed. Yes, although the city is clean and tidy, but because of the high-tech development, you can't see this kind of scenery at all, and the outside of the city has become a garbage dump. Lucian didn't know what to think of, and his eyes were so dim. I believe there is hope for our future, Chief Ash. At this time, a low voice came from behind. The members of the rebel army looked back, and there were a few people: Nick Fury, a one-eyed bald man in a black trench coat, Iron Man Tony Stark, and Hawkeye Barton, who was wearing a S.H.I.E.L.D. Kevlar battlesuit, and another wine-red hair woman. The last middle-aged man, Bruce Banner, was dressed in ordinary clothes. Advertisement: the two parties have had a video call before, and today is the first day of meeting. Director Nick Fury. The leaders of both sides met and looked at each other. Thanks to Director Nick Fury for setting up our base. We all have a common enemy, and as allies, we will try to do what we can. Fury was impeccable. At the first meeting, everyone was quite satisfied. Maybe they just felt that the people on Earth seemed a little weak. Instead, Yi looked at Bruce Banner and said in a low voice, "There is a beast lurking in your body, which makes me feel the danger." Listening to Yi's words, the rest of the rebels looked over in surprise. Facing everyone's eyes, Bruce Banner shrugged and said bitterly, "I'm here because of it. I can feel its potential." Yi nodded, and didn't say anything more after saying one sentence. Afterwards, Nick Fury took the rebels to visit the base. In the end, Ike started the road of transformation. As a genius, Ike has extraordinary technological attainments. He used materials brought by S.H.I.E.L.D. and hex crystals to build a hex portal in the underground warehouse of the base. And Tony and Bruce Banner both acted as assistants. As for the rest, they just watched from the sidelines. The portal is a metal square module door with a width of 3 meters and a diameter of 4 meters high. Tony and Bruce Banner rolled up their sleeves and followed Ike to build the portal with a wrench laser work gun. Ask about the technical details of the portal while building it. Ike didn't know if he was ordered by Ash, but he didn't hide it, and he would explain the principle. Hearing that, Tony's eyes became brighter and more excited. Advertisement for 2 top scientists: when it comes to space distance technology, it's like seeing a table of delicious food for people who have been hungry for 10 days. They greedily absorb all technology. However, Tony and Banner also know that the principle of portal technology is complicated and difficult to understand, and it also needs more important rune imprints, which are closely related to the energy in the hex spar. To put it bluntly, first of all, you have to understand the portal runes thoroughly, and you can't make mistakes in every detail, and without hex spar, even if you rebuild the portal, it is impossible to activate it. Tony has an arc reactor, and it is impossible to replace the hex spar. Unless Tony can read through the runes and recreate new runes associated with arc reactor energy. It's a pity that this project is not so big, even with the top artificial intelligence JARVIS. But Tony is still excited, and other technologies of the portal can also allow him to comprehend by analogy and solve some problems that he only had before. Ash and Nick Fury are still communicating. Knowing that these people in front of him are a single combat team created by humans, Fury took out his tablet and generously displayed the information of the members of the Avengers team one by one. Tony Stark owns a very advanced technological armor. Strong combat power, flexible single combat ability. From Ash's point of view, the advantages and disadvantages are obvious, at least the combat power is not weak. As for the 2 S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, there are 2 weak chickens, let alone mention them. On the contrary, Bruce Banner's transformation into a green monster is very good. First of all, the defense is very amazing. In the bombing of the Earth with high-tech weapons, he did not receive a single bit of damage, and his strength and speed are amazing. And as you continue to maintain anger, your strength will continue to grow. The combat power and potential of this team are average. But Ash didn't show it. There are many strong civilizations on Earth, that's Gretchen, and Cyclops' God ability is quite good. Portals take some time to build. After everyone had lunch in the base, Ike, Tony, and Bruce Banner hurried back after eating. It's a little stuck, the book friends said that there are too many people, and the outline will be changed a little later, and the follow-up will be slowly advanced. Advertisement. Chapter 47. Base construction is in full swing. Lucian and Fiona are communicating with the two ace agents of SHIELD. The fighting style of the Source Plan fighters under Metal Gear Solid completely broke the vision of the two agents. Whether it is Hawkeye or Natasha Romanoff, although the strength of the body structure is far more than that of ordinary people for some reason. But after all, it is still the category of human beings. On the other hand, Lucian and Fiona are different. They have special identities. In addition to the experimental injection of the genes of ancient heroes, the physical strength of the two is terrifying. With the cooperation of the specially made alloy equipment and weapons, it makes the two of them even more powerful. Combat power has greatly increased. In the sparring, both Natasha Romanoff and Hawkeye were crushed throughout. Not to mention melee combat, just a single round of long range, Hawkeye's compound bow and special arrows are useless at long distances at all. Lucian and Fiona are both agile fighters, they can span hundreds of meters or even hundreds of meters in the blink of an eye. Can rush to Barton. The latter's combat awareness is astonishing, and it can't be stopped at all. This really opened the eyes of Black Widow Natasha Romanoff and Barton, but they also fully realized how terrifying the combat power of this level of experimental fighters is. The Source Project group was actually able to create such a terrifying warrior. It is conceivable how terrifying the opponent's energy is. The mass production of fighters of this level would be a huge disaster for any world, especially Earth. Discovered a new, more backward world, full of ambition and desire, will they let it go? No wonder director Nick Fury is eager to form the Avengers. On the beach, Nick Fury and Ash stood side by side, the black bald head in a coat and the beautiful heroic woman in a blue armored cloak full of technological sense stood together, looking so eye-catching. The waves rolled over and over again, trying to get back to the beach. The seagulls are constantly singing from the sky, and everything seems natural and peaceful. Advertisement. It's a beautiful world, I really hope my world can have such a scenery. AIXI looked into the distance, the endless blue sea, everything was so harmonious. Fury didn't look at her, his one-eyed eyes seemed to be recalling, we all have our own world, the only thing we can do is to protect it, even if it's not perfect, isn't it? Yes, I would give anything for it. Ash firmly said. The corner of Fury's mouth curled slightly, he could feel the rock-solid belief of the excellent leader beside him, such a person would be unwavering on the way forward, no matter what obstacles stood in the way. Although he maintains an instinctive vigilance against people from other dimension worlds, it does not prevent him from trusting them. Nothing creates trust more easily than having a common and powerful enemy. Moreover, Fury knows that they need the help of the rebel army, and the rebel army may become one of the bridges for them to contact the three-dimensional world of chaos, order, and chaos. Starting from the smallest, supporting each other. As the trust grows, he may be able to reap some gains from it. For example, Source Planning Company Technology. Gene, alloy armor transformation technology, he was drooling looking at it. Once this technology can be owned by S.H.I.E.L.D, perhaps in the future, combined with the super soldier serum technology, it will be able to mass-produce such new Source Project fighters, and at that time will be able to have the power to resist in the face of more powerful threats. The appearance of the Yexiao organization, General Huang Yuan, Yamamoto Motoyasa Shigakuni and others has always been a thorn in his heart. Thinking of this, Fury's one eye was full of gloom. It was also at this time that a figure appeared in his mind. He turned to Ash and said, "Chief Ash, I don't know if you have heard of a man named Dante." These words made Ash raise her eyebrows, and looked at Fury in surprise. How do you know this person? Logically speaking, you shouldn't know this name really. Fury's heart was shocked, and he hurriedly continued to ask, why do you say that? Advertisement. This name is so famous that even people in the chaotic universe and low civilized world have heard of it. He is a legend. Ash sighed. Fury grew interested. The man of Lyon is finally about to be unmasked. It is said that the demon hunter Dante has not been around for a long time. It seems that a few years ago, he haunted the chaotic world and traveled to many world civilizations. But for some reason, he started a war with the Supreme Demon Queen. This war has affected the entire chaotic universe, and that battle was amazing. The war between the two led to the destruction of countless planets and galaxies. Hundreds of millions of demons fell in this battle. This battle lasted for a full 10 days, so it is called the 10-Day War by many civilized worlds. Ash's beautiful face is full of longing and longing. It seems that he really hopes to watch that earth-shattering, world-shocking battle in person. What about the result? Fury pressed. Ash shook her head. The outcome of that battle caused the Demon Queen to suffer heavy losses. No one knows who won and who lost, but only knew that demon hunter Dante disappeared without a trace, and the Demon Queen did not move afterward, but it seems that she has been tracking down search for Dante's whereabouts. I'm afraid that even if Dante didn't die in that battle, he should have been severely injured. Fury's heart was full of turmoil. Lyon, a human being, was able to start a 10-day war with the Demon Queen. The battle between the two caused the stars to shatter, the mountains and rivers were turned upside down, and hundreds of millions of demons fell. How could he have such strength? What's the difference between this and God? In an instant, Fury made up his mind to construct a script that he thought was correct. He now finally understands why Lyon lived on Earth peacefully. After fighting the Demon Queen, he was seriously injured and recuperated on Earth for a few years. The appearance of the Black and Holy Grail, and the battle between the Akatsuki organization and the Yellow Ape, he did not take action because he was afraid of attracting to the attention of the Demon Queen. Fury has nothing to say about Lyon. This is a boss, or a grumpy boss, he can't be provoked, and can also be the last card of the earth. Please ask for a monthly ticket for flowers, thank you for your support, and I would also like to thank the big guys of Out of Nothing for their rewards, thank you. Advertisement. Chapter 48. Lyon, who was determined to be a big boss by Nick Fury, originally stayed with Hay on the park lawn for a picnic. Under the beautiful scenery and trees, the breeze blows, full of tranquility and harmony. Unfortunately, this atmosphere did not last long. After sitting down and eating the last sandwich in the lunchbox, Lyon closed the lunchbox, looked up at the group of uninvited guests in front of him and said, "So, I really hate people bothering me at this time. I'm sorry, Mr. Lyon, but we had to." Charles's old voice came. Lyon glanced over one by one. Charles, Jean, Magneto Eric, and Mystique Raven transformed into human skin. I have to say, they look okay. His eyes finally settled on Charles. It looks like you've reached a settlement. Mr. Lyon knows more than I imagined. Magneto Eric said. He was wearing a grey sweater at the moment, like an ordinary old man, slightly gentle, but his eyes were still majestic. Then he focused his eyes on the girl who was tidying up on the tablecloth, and narrowed his eyes slightly. If it weren't for the memory, no one would have thought that this beautiful and noble girl possesses the power to destroy the world. The girl also raised her head at this time, and after looking at Magneto curiously, she obediently did not speak. As long as she doesn't feel any malice, she is as harmless as the surface. I'm in a pretty good mood today, so you only have 10 minutes. Lyon said lazily. Not even Magneto was a little emotional about this attitude. Mr. Lyon, I think you are aware of what happened in the state of Mexico. Lyon didn't make a sound. Charles continued, I don't know if Mr. Lyon knows about Black Rose and LeBlanc. LeBlanc? Advertisement. Lyon raised an eyebrow. The professor nodded slightly, turned to look at Jean, and the latter did not hesitate, and immediately transferred the money on the spot. Lyon didn't bother to check how much money he earned, after all, with the old man's assets, there must be a lot. So he also readily gave the information Charles wanted. Where LeBlanc came from, I don't know, but it is rumored that she is from Runeterra. The Black Rose is from the remnants of a very ancient order, LeBlanc is the leader, her traces are very mysterious, and she has manipulated a large number of people in Runeterra nobles, create chaos. It is impossible to know what the fundamental purpose of this pale witch is, but he only knows that he is gaining unknown benefits. In addition, this woman is related to another very ancient life, and the background is not small. The words are very brief. But the amount of information is huge. A gust of wind blew, and a few leaves fell from the sky, and when they landed on the ground, Charles's voice sounded slowly. How can I find her? You want to find her to avenge your friends and students? Lyon raised an eyebrow. The professor nodded with a calm expression. At my grade, I thought I could see through life and death, but when Hank and Ororo sacrificed, I still couldn't accept it in my heart. And besides, she's eyeing another student of yours. Lyon looked at Gretchen and nodded his jaw. It seems that you have noticed it. Yeah, I can't accept that I'm losing other people. Her ancient magic is very strange. When I traveled, I didn't have much contact with her, but she has a lot of black magic, and she can change into any identity. It is not easy to find her, even if you have spiritual magic. Lyon has no qualms about giving the bad news. After finishing speaking, she shook her head and pointed to the piano straightforwardly. If you really meet her, you may all be played by her, but she can control the power in the spiritual world, and she may be able to kill that woman. Jean frowned, her eyes flickered, she didn't know what she was thinking. Advertisement Charles, Magneto, and Raven were not surprised by Lyon's words, because all three had experienced the horror of Jean's burst of power. Mr. Lyon, if we want you to kill that woman, what price do we have to pay? Magneto asked suddenly. As soon as these words came out, even the calm Charles turned his head to look at his old friend, not to mention the rest. No one thought Magneto would ask such a question. Lyon stretched lazily, and said casually, you can't afford the price of killing that woman. Is it because of the ancient life behind her? Magneto's mind was sharp, and it occurred to him in an instant. That woman's strength is mediocre, but if I want to keep her, I have to spend some strength, but once I make a move, she will notice it. You probably don't want to see the picture of her descending into this universe. The current Earth cannot bear such risks and costs. Magneto nodded silently. Then he looked at the girl, what if you want her to make a move? As soon as these words came out, a sacred golden halo flashed across Lyon's eyes, and a majestic aura descended like a bright galaxy in an instant, and the world froze for a moment. Everyone present, Magneto, Charles, and the others changed their expressions drastically. It feels as if the coercion of the gods is suppressing the body, as if the soul is about to collapse. This kind of power is not what humans should have at all. Fortunately, it was only for a moment, and the oppressive feeling like the sky was collapsing disappeared. Magneto and the others looked at the man in disbelief, their backs were soaked in sweat. Lyon narrowed his eyes slightly, don't hit her attention. Magneto took a deep breath, and immediately apologized at the speed of light, I'm sorry, I took the liberty. Ask for a monthly ticket for flowers, thank you for your support. Advertisement. Chapter 49. The Earth is not as simple as you imagine, and the same is true for this universe. When you want to go to that dimension, it means that this universe will be completely exposed to the sight of those people. In fact, you don't need to look for her at all. She will come to you on her own initiative. What you should do is think about how to deal with that woman. On the way back, Lyon's words echoed in everyone's minds. Charles's face was calm, no one knew what he was thinking, and no one knew that at the moment, he had undergone some subtle changes compared to before. Under his eyes, a faintly invisible blackness flickered away. Sitting on the lawn enjoying the tranquility, Lyon lay on the tablecloth, letting the sunlight fall on his handsome face through the gaps between the leaves of the canopy. Wisps of breeze blew the branches and swayed. Saber at the side also imitated Lyon and lay down in a dignified manner. Suddenly, she said crisply, there are bad things in that person's mind. Yeah, it's really not very good. Lyon replied with his eyes closed, the sun was warm on his face, making him more lazy. The girl was a little puzzled, but Lyon didn't mean to explain, so she didn't ask any more. As for Lyon, the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. This bad thing will cause waves in the whole world, Pale Witch, I am looking forward to the surprise you bring. Advertisement Mexican State. In the renovated Tiankang temporary base, the gene-powered rebels Ash, Yi, Lucian, Black Widow Natasha Romanoff and Phil Coulson looked at the burly man sitting decadently through the glass window. He looks very strong, but he is also very weak. Lucian sized it up and commented. Ash turned to look at Phil Coulson, he was the one who broke into the base last night, and the target was that hammer. After getting this news, Ash led Lucian and Yi to Mexico State. The main thing is to understand the origin of the hammer. After all, this thing is indeed very strange, it can attract LeBlanc's attention, and it is to prevent the counterintelligence team from attacking. Phil Coulson shrugged. Last night, he rushed into the camp on a rainy night and injured many of my subordinates by himself. His target was the hammer, but he didn't pick it up. Although he didn't know what happened, he still became like this. 3 do not know. If it was before, he must have thought that guy must be a spy, an agent, sent by a certain powerful country. As for now, after experiencing so much, his vision has also changed. He thinks that the origin of this person may be more complicated than imagined. Yi folded his arms and stood in front of Ash, staring at the man in the room with the eyes behind the orange compound eye goggles, and said in a deep voice, "There is unimaginable power in his body, very strong and terrifying." Yi's sudden opening immediately attracted everyone's attention. Natasha Romanoff raised her beautiful eyebrows and said, "It's originally very unreasonable for a man with such power to be caught, Phil Coulson." As she spoke, she looked at Phil Coulson, whose face changed. "So you think he did it on purpose?" Phil Coulson's eyes flickered, and he looked directly at the decadent man through the single-pane French windows and guessed, "To get close to us? To steal information? To touch that hammer?" At this moment, suddenly, 3 cold breaths burst out from Ash, Lucian, and Yi's bodies. Advertisement in an instant, an iron plate full of technology appeared in Ixie's hand. Following a sudden change, a longbow appeared. She suddenly turned around and pulled the longbow to point it at a direction outside the camp. Through the dense glass and plastic cloth, she seemed to see to the enemy in general. Wang! Ash let go of her fingers, the bowstring rang, and the ice blue particle arrow pierced the air in an instant, piercing through countless glass and plastic sheets and shooting away into the distance. The orange-yellow energy lines on Yi's alloy armor lit up, and his body squatted down suddenly. Under the action of powerful force, the ground cracked, and his whole body instantly pierced through the plastic camp ceiling and soared into the sky. Seeing the fierce action of the 3 of Ash, Phil Coulson, Natasha Romanoff, and Barton reacted immediately. Natasha Romanoff looked at Barton, who immediately nodded and ran towards the sentry tower. Phil Coulson looked serious, turned around and took out the communicator and yelled hastily, "Attention all departments, immediately pay attention to the southwest direction, there is an enemy attack, there is an enemy attack." All of a sudden, the whole machine of S.H.I.E.L.D. was running. Natasha Romanoff glanced at Barton who was leaving, and then glanced at Ash, who was as cold as an iceberg, holding a longbow and not moving her feet, but the position of the longbow moved slightly from time to time, with a slow rhythm, as if she was locking on the enemy. Ash locked onto the opponent, and Lucien stayed in place to prevent the tiger from leaving the mountain. Yi, who has the strongest combat power and the fastest single body speed, will charge and kill the comer head-on. At the moment when an unknown enemy is discovered, a set of tactics is completed in an instant. This level of tacit understanding is really terrifying. Natasha Romanoff admired secretly. She and Barton used to be the best teammates, and the level of tacit understanding is not as good as that of these people in front of them. Each of these people is an absolute top combat master. I just don't know who it is. Natasha Romanoff had a bad premonition, and a lingering haze in her heart. Perhaps, a disaster was slowly approaching. Natasha Romanoff's eyes changed slightly. "Ask for a monthly ticket for flowers, thank you guys for your support, thank you." Advertisement. Chapter 50. A very proud man, Loki is depressed now. Who is he? He is the son of Odin in Asgard, even though he now knows that he is an adopted son, but still, let him plan a coup d'état. This coup caused Thor, his greatest enemy, to be exiled by his father Odin himself. And after the king of God fell into Odin's sleep, he also mastered the power of Asgard in one hand, holding Gungnir, the eternal gun symbolized by Wang Chuan. Originally, everything was so perfect. Unfortunately, there is still a shadow that he can't get rid of, and that is his brother Thor, who has a radiant light all the time. From childhood to adulthood, Thor has attracted the attention and praise of countless people, whether it is Odin, his mother, friends of the same generation, or even soldiers in the Asgard Legion. They are all conquered by Thor's personal charm and bravery. Think of Thor as the future king who will lead Asgard. But Loki, who thinks he is better than Thor, can only be covered by Thor's light. Loki, who likes flowers, applause, and approval, no matter what he does, he will always be called the son of Odin, Thor's younger brother. Unwilling Loki planned everything. Let the shining stumbling block be exiled to the most backward civilization, but he has no intention of letting Thor go. He wants to see Thor's lonely and decadent appearance with his own eyes. It's just that I didn't expect to be discovered and attacked as soon as I came to the earth. Loki was wronged, he couldn't understand why these guys attacked him. He glanced at the ice arrow sticking obliquely on the ground not far behind, and the ground covered in frost, the corner of his mouth curved into a sneer. Frost. He has the blood of frost, and frost has no effect on him. It's just that the man in front of him covered in alloy armor is indeed a little threatening. Loki, who thought he had reached the peak and was at his most inflated, held Gungnir in his hand, looked at the man in front of him with contempt, and said in a cold voice, "You humble worms, do you know who you are facing now? You dare to attack the gods, now, kneel down and beg for my forgiveness, otherwise, I will take out your heart and tear your soul apart." He holds the super light alpha blade and looks at Loki as if he is mentally handicapped. Advertisement definitely because of the cover of the goggles, Loki couldn't see it, but it didn't prevent Loki from feeling Yi's undisguised disdain. This made Loki instantly annoyed. Damn ants, boom. Loki raised his hand, aiming the tip of the Gungnir gun in his hand at Yi. A terrifying energy ray pierced the air instantly and shot at an astonishingly fast speed. The scorching energy distorted the air along the way, and the sand and gravel on the ground were vividly drawn. A ditch. It is easy to see that the figure squats down slightly. The sky is full of orange-yellow particles like starlight, and its powerful muscles burst out with terrifying explosive power. The ground suddenly cracked, and Yi's figure disappeared instantly, pulling out after images and rushing towards Loki, skipping the laser beam. Yi, who was judged as an enemy, finally showed the strength of the first concept beyond the limit in the experiment. Boom! The rays shredded the after image, and a terrifying mushroom cloud exploded on the ground 100 meters away. The earth trembled and yellow sand swept across. In the huge air wave, Yi's figure had already struck, and the fleeting figure rushed in front of Loki, holding up the sharp alpha blade and slashing at Loki's neck. The ruthless killing intent was all over the place. Loki also didn't expect that the man in the strange armor in front of him would have such a speed. Fortunately, his extraordinary blood and thousands of years of training have already made him quite capable. In the nick of time, he raised Gungnir to stand in front of him. The next moment, the blade collided with Gungnir. Clang! The huge amounts of metal crashing shattered the ears, making Loki's eardrums almost shattered, but Loki didn't have time to pay attention to these at all, because there was a terrifying impact of power from Gungnir's gun. The unimaginable force caused the entire Gungnir to tremble. Loki was caught off guard and did not block it at all, and his whole body shot backwards like a cannonball. Boom! Flying upside down for hundreds of meters, a huge hole was knocked out of the Gobi Hills not far away, and the dense cracks made the hills that were not too big faintly collapse. Loki is embedded in the hill, and his whole body appears in large characters. Advertisement: the chest is heavy and there is a feeling of vomiting blood. Fortunately, his tyrannical physical fitness made him feel a little uncomfortable. Loki did not forget the enemy. Although he was angry inside, he also knew that the opponent should not be underestimated. He quickly raised his head and looked forward, his pupils shrank suddenly. Because, that sharp alpha blade has already occupied the entire viewing angle. An orange-yellow line divides the entire hill in two. Rumble! The hill that was cut in half suddenly collapsed, rolling up gravel and yellow sand all over the sky. In the wind and sand, Yi Jianjian's figure broke through and galloped towards the back of the hill. A cone-shaped mist exploded around his body at such a high speed, the air waves raged, and a ditch was plowed on the ground. The speed unexpectedly broke through to the speed of sound at this moment. Loki, who used deceitful magic to avoid the death blow at a critical moment, was in a panic, and was preparing to retreat tactically, followed by Yi like a Tarsus worm. Damn, this guy! Loki didn't understand why the other party could see through the magic of his hidden breath, but it was too late to think about it now. Looking at the opponent's posture, his fighting power is beyond Loki's imagination. Loki knew that he was definitely not an opponent. So without the slightest hesitation, Loki clasped the eternal spear with both hands and slammed it on the ground vertically. Rumble! Terrifying energy, the endless torrent of lightning swept away from him in all directions, and the destructive torrent of lightning wreaked havoc and destroyed everything. However, Yi didn't care about the discrepancies at all, and still with firm belief, he rushed into the lightning torrent with Loki's look of looking at a madman. Boom! Loki suddenly spit out a big mouthful of blood, and then was evaporated by the high temperature brought by the lightning torrent, only to feel the blade across his chest, hit by the turbulent force. At this moment, Loki feels death. Ask for a monthly ticket for flowers, thank you for your support. Advertisement. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you are notified of future uploads. You can find the next parts in the playlist visible on the screen or on my channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.